Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 286, and we are joined tonight by, well, Ray Cheshire's already out there saying anybody home, so that's good. Yeah, we're right here, Ray. We've got Charlie Ward, and we have Travis Pappenheim. Put your guys' name up on the screen for us to get started, if I could see that far. These gentlemen are with Altadis USA, one of our primary sponsors, if not the primary sponsor. Tinder Box Easton is kind of right there with it. But you guys, your signage is up every week. You got the Montecristo behind me, and as it goes down the line, Romeo Julieta. You've got H. Upman. You've got Aging Room, and countless others, really. Buteras, we were talking about. Onyx, we were smoking a new Onyx today in the shop. What else?
Henry Clay. St. Louis Ray. Vega Fina.
Did you say H. Upman?
I did, yeah, it's on the banner. I mean, come on, Jesus.
On the banner. That's
try to keep up, Charlie. It's right there. It's right there, right behind you. But yeah, anyway, Altadis USA, we're smoking a special cigar from them tonight. We're going to talk about it. It is the Montecristo 1935 Anniversary. This is the Edicion Diamante. And this is brand new to the market.
It is.
Okay, so we're going to go over that here tonight. These gentlemen also brought Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, which, believe it or not, in 285 episodes, we have not cracked this bottle.
We've done the regular and the double.
Nice.
And the malt.
And the malt and probably the rye as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever done the wheat.
No.
But
so this is going to be a first, believe it or not. This is one that's just kind of like snuck by. It's a great bottle. And I'm looking forward to seeing. And you're going to explain, Travis, why you guys picked this one because of how this all goes together. But we're going to be drinking it straight up.
A ton of magic behind it. So
what's that?
There's a ton of magic behind
all the magic.
Yep.
Perfect. But I do want to thank our sponsors. We already mentioned, obviously, Altadis USA. We've got Tinder Box at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. That's where this is all based out of. They do carry the Montecristo 1935 Edicion Diamante. I'm just going to call it the Diamond Edition from now on instead of doing that whole thing. They also have the 1935 Anniversary, which was before this, along with a whole line of Montecristos, along with all the other Altadis brands. So check that out. If you don't have a local brick and mortar near you, you can shop localish and get a hold of Tinder Box at Easton, and they do ship, so they can get that to you. If you're in the Columbus area, just visiting even, stop by, check them out. They're in the northeast part of Columbus at a great mall. So again, Altadis USA, as you see it on the screen there. Again, you guys continued support. We appreciate it. We always have the second cigar of the night from Altadis USA. Appreciate that support and just the continued effort from you guys, from Maria. Josh Bentley kind of got all this started with Paul Waller, who they're both still with the company. They've kind of gone on to different branches of the company, but it's great to see the growth and the continued support. BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Plasencia, and the silver is made by Espinosa, all Nicaraguan tobacco in both. And then if you guys want any of the swag, Nate, you got the 3/4 sleeve. This weather's perfect for those BS 3/4 sleeves. He's got the white, black, and gold. That's going to be available on buyjack.com. That's byjack.com/bourbon and BS. I've got the podcast shirt on. This is pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. And there's a couple hoodies on there for the real true fall and winter weather coming up. So check that out as well. And we also want to thank you guys, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast for the monthly contributions, as well as the anytime donation or contribution at Venmo at Bourbon and BS. All right, that's enough of the business right now. We appreciate you guys being here. You comfortable?
Well,
right?
I was going to say, are you going to comment on my shirt?
Is that available online? Where's that?
Amazon.
Amazon.com.
I think we all get Amazon nowadays, right?
Amazon.com. It's on the internet if you guys want to check that out.
If not,
Perfect.
check your local AI program.
There you go.
They can connect you, I'm sure.
They will do it. Charlie, who are you wearing tonight? Montecristo. Perfect. Now that we got the fashion out of the way, guys, make sure you share, review, like, and all that good stuff. We've got a good feed going on Wednesday nights. If you guys are listening to this after the fact, Wednesday nights around 7:30, 7:45 or so, we go live on Facebook and YouTube. So share it and join the conversation. What are we smoking?
Montecristo Anniversary Edicion Diamante.
Oh, you say it all nice and pretty.
I know, right?
You should probably crack that bottle though here, right?
These lines have gotten so long, but it definitely tells exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Montecristo 1935 Edicion Diamante is really, I think we all remember the Montecristo 1935, the number 2 cigar of the year. Very well done. Nicaraguan tobacco, 100% Nicaraguan cigar, and it is number 2 cigar of the year. Well, in order to follow that one up and have a rating like that, you know, when you got a really good rating, you got to back it up with some strength. You got to back it up with something that's a little bit different, but it's a really good cigar. So it took us a little bit of time to create this one, but by doing it, the tobaccos have gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
The blend is different than the 1935 original, but the way the original 1935 is very flavor forward, this one is a lot more subdued in the background, the way the flavors come across. A lot of complexity. There's a lot of flavor that goes on with this one. When you smoke it, you'll go, I see what he's saying. It's very soft, but there's a lot of real complex flavors. And that's why we thought the bourbon that we chose would be a very good one, because it does have a lot of complex flavors, but it's not real big in the heat the way it comes across.
It's got a child lock on it, so give me a second. Keep talking. It's fine. I don't know why these make it so difficult for children to get into. It's ridiculous.
And for those who want to donate, he will take a bottle opener or a knife of some kind.
Basic motor skills.
But this blend, I've been so proud of the team, the marketing team, and Rafael Nodal
Yourself?
And everybody to put this blend together. To me, it was just the first time I tasted it in the tasting vision on the final, toward the final end of it. We were tasting the final blending and saying, is this right? I'm like, wow, this is going to be something special. And it really has turned out to be something remarkable.
So Travis, well, Charlie, let's start with you. What is your position with Altadis, since we haven't really had you on the show before, but love having you on. Thank you.
The mic.
Pass that down here. I'm going to move this.
Got it. Thanks. Yeah.
That goes that way and this comes this way.
So I'm a premium territory sales manager covering Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky.
Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. Those are some fun states.
Yeah, that's some bourbon country.
I was going to say, that's some fun states.
Hey.
Ohio's actually the biggest one out of
Pass that
those
along.
3.
Right.
Yeah, Ohio is, but it's nice to get some of the stuff you can find in Indiana and Kentucky, though you can't really find here in Ohio sometimes. But Sean says lean into the mic. Might have to turn up Charlie here a little bit.
Me lean into the mic.
Yeah, or just scoot up.
Scoot
Get
forward.
comfy.
I'm gonna be here a while. So
Charlie, how long have you been with the Altadis? Because you basically, we had our frequent guest Josh Bentley obviously on for many years on the podcast, and then that position opened up because he moved into a key accounts role. We've talked about it before. We've had him on actually since he has moved on in the company, but you've been with the company now. I feel like it's longer than
It's
think.
a little over a year.
Okay, yeah.
But I've been in the industry for 20 years.
Right.
I actually was with Altadis on the mass market side for 10 years.
Okay.
Previous to this.
That's excellent.
If everyone can hear me.
I think they can. You got to talk like you want to just talk to the monitor there. And Travis, you've been on the show before. You want to give us a little bit of a background of what you do for Altadis at this point?
My title
Sure. Start with that.
National Education Manager. Now, if any of you out there can figure out what that means, please put it in the comments. Really what it is I can go in and teach retail staff about our brands, about the blends, about tasting notes, and just any tools that they can use to help tie in and associate with the brand, or maybe make sense of what these cigars are, and turning our retail staff around the country from just regular salespeople that are selling retail to true tobacconists back in the industry.
Yeah.
Bringing premium cigars and getting tobacconists behind the registers, talking about the cigar, talk about the curing and the fermenting and what it does and why things happen with it. And then on top of that, I'll do like consumer-driven events.
Yeah.
I'll teach them about wrapper leaf, or I'll do like we were in the store earlier today, and we were talking about, here's a naked cigar with no banding, nothing, and a grading sheet. It's very similar to what we use in our factory, and go through, and I'll go through all the grading notes on what we do and we look for in the outward appearance. Is the head the right shape? Is the bicoloring of the wrapper, or does it have a good draw? Does it have any explosion of the wrapper, or any issues with the cigar? Well, that could be the blend that we put together. And if we have catch issues early, then we can fix those. So if we see consistency of what we call a fissure or a break in the ash, we know that could be a bad binder leaf, or a leaf that's a little too exposed will cause that push out and cause that ash to break. So we want to fix stuff like that. So we have a nice solid ash, kind of like you'll see tonight with the 1935 Diamante.
Yeah. It was interesting that the sheet, we did that in the shop today at Tinder Box at Easton with a couple customers. Start off with just Brian and myself. But as customers came in, we had some people sitting down for cigars. We had some locker members, some other just kind of, not want to say random, but, like other customers that were sitting down for a smoke. And you guys were kind enough to allow them to do it as well. I mean, that was where it's kind of a fun, not experiment, but basically just exercise that you can do. And it was cool to see the sheet because it started even before you lit up the cigar, before you really cut the cigar. It was all the appearance you're talking about. And then it was, I mean, we had William, he was about to grade the suction on there. And I said, well, you got to cut the cigar first. So, I mean, there's a little bit of guidance you have to give sometimes to people, but yeah, it's from start to finish. There's a lot on that sheet, and it was a very cool exercise. And I'm glad to see you guys are doing stuff like that because it's something that especially retailers don't do, but certainly customers don't do. I mean, I think some cigar smokers, very enthusiast people, they just like the notebooks that you see them where they're saving the labels and stuff like that, or they do with the bourbons and stuff as well. But it's just kind of cool to have that format where you're able to just really not have to think necessarily of how to grade a cigar, but it was something that you just kind of go along this format. It's brilliant.
Very step by step.
Very much so.
You think about premium cigars, they're nothing more than a hobby. And I would put them in the realm of bourbons. I mean, you get groups and guys together, like, what you guys do, right? You're talking about these bourbons, you're talking about different notes that you'll get off of them and different stylings and the heat and it all comes in. Well, same thing with cigars. It all comes into it. It's really to me, it's a big hobby that we get to play with.
Yeah.
And when you get guys that are really wanting to go waist deep into their hobby, this is a way they can get more guidance in what they're enjoying.
Yeah.
And that's where the tobacconists kind of come into play with the consumer or the retail side is if they want to know, but they don't have an answer, they're going to look online. There's a lot of guys that know what they're talking about. There's a lot of guys that don't, that think they do, but hey, they put their name out there and people can believe it. But there's just a lack of education from the consumer end. People that just buy a cigar, they haven't had the guidance like we had back in the 80s and 90s, when grandpa taught grandson or dad taught sons. And now it's guys just pick up a cigar and they're trying to learn on their own.
Right.
And sometimes you just need that little extra guidance and showing them the right draw, how to properly cut.
The question up there, does Travis only cover the U.S.? Seems as if there would be a need for global in that position.
There is, but when you only speak English, you're limited.
It's limited. So you need an Altadis translator along with you.
Right.
That would be nice.
I have done some stuff in our Honduran and our Dominican factories,
Mm-hmm.
really teaching the Dominican and the Honduran teams that the way they make cigars or have made cigars in the past may not always dictate that that's what they need to roll. Like a manufacturer, you need to learn who your audience is.
Okay.
Well, the stats I pulled in 2017 were 66.67% of the global production of cigars were bought and sold in the U.S. They're making them for not what we want in the U.S. now because we've noticed over the years our flavors have gotten up. Our body levels, our strength levels in cigars have gone like, where's our max, right? As U.S. consumers, we always want to find out where that max is. I mean, you can buy a crate motor with 1,000 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way we'd have done that in the 80s or any time before that.
Certainly not in the 80s.
So we just want to find out where our limits are.
Okay.
Well, we need to keep our factories up with what U.S. consumers are willing to buy. And that's where I come down there and I'll teach the managers who are watching the line staff and creating some of these blends and keeping them on track. So we make sure we're producing the best product out there.
Charlie, what do you find based off of that? What do you find you're seeing? What's selling more? Is it, because we've talked about on the show as far as the progression of a cigar smoker going, they start mild a lot of times. And then other times they start just really pushing it. They just want that Ligero drip, which is basically, for those who don't know, that's just Ligero is the stronger tobacco, typically in the filler, and it's got a lot of nicotine. And then they kind of start finding the middle ground. I mean, what do you see?
Right. I kind of see. So it's funny because we were talking to one of the guys today, and he said that he started off strong.
Yeah.
And now he's been working his way down to the Connecticut and just to try something, I guess, on a more mild level.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see it all, though.
Yeah.
And we seem to kind of aim towards the medium, right? Medium full with our new product. So it seems like it's going that way.
But we cover the
we
full
cover
spectrum.
everything.
Anywhere from mild up to the full bodies.
Right.
We're not talking full body with no flavor.
Right.
And the word body. I mean, you've had many guests on in the cigar lines. Some people refer to body as like the flavor of a cigar, like I did when I was in the wine side of life.
Mm-hmm.
Body meant flavor. Well, in body, the way I was taught was body meant strength in a cigar. So really got to understand what you mean. Maybe go strength and flavor, but I refer to body as the strength. Some people like to start strong, but there again, let's just jump in deep feet first. Some people like to say, let's ease it in. Is it something I want to like? It's really up to the individual. I mean, my first cigar is nowhere near what I would be smoking today. But of course, that was 26 years ago. So
A few years ago.
like
A few more options these days, really. Well, I found it interesting, like Montecristo, and I don't know, you guys give me your opinion on this, but I think Montecristo went through, it's like iconic, right? 1935 is when the brand was launched in Cuba, correct?
Correct.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have gone off of that, obviously, and there's, I know it's changed a little bit, but like the parent companies are somewhat involved on both sides of the Cuban and non-Cuban market for many years. And so I know that there's been, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know it's recently been sold, right? I mean, you made a face there.
The
Imperial.
the Cuban and non-Cuban versions of a lot of brands coming out of Cuba are either owned by us or General in the U.S.
Right.
And then our sister company we both report to Tabacalera US or Tabacalera in Spain.
Okay.
So Tabacalera SA and Tabacalera USA both report to Tabacalera, as far as I have been told.
Yeah.
Or as I've been understanding.
Yeah. So
I'm not legal.
That being said, Montecristo, I feel like, has been known for, obviously the Cuban market for many years, obviously from 1935. And then when I came, I'm not that far into the industry, honestly. I've been smoking cigars now for probably 15 plus years, but really like working in the industry for over 10. But Montecristo was kind of like it was there with some of your other brands, like Romeo Julieta, the H. Upmans. And you almost saw this, I don't want to say like identity crisis, but it was kind of the changing of the market, as you were talking about, Travis, where it was like, all of a sudden, like we were talking about the term boutique or boutique cigars, but you had all these pop-ups, obviously in the cigar boom, and then afterwards, and since really even the last 5-10 years.
You said cigar boom.
The 90s cigar boom. Sorry, the cigar that one.
And that's an inside.
When everything was just coming out with like it's supposedly tobacco, from all the people just throwing shit out there.
Yeah, I remember that in the 90s.
But I'm saying, like, you with Montecristo, I feel as though people think of the mild, like, your classic series. We're going with the Altadis ones, right? Mm-hmm. The classic series, the white series. I don't know your guys' numbers. From my vantage point, I think the white series is the best-selling Montecristo out there. Mm-hmm. It's, you guys call it medium. I call it kind of on the lighter side of medium, obviously, as far as the market out there, right? It's kind of like with Davidoff with their grading scale. And it's like, oh, it's a 4 out of 5. It's like, that's like a 4 out of 10. You know what I mean? But with the Montecristo White series, that just sells like crazy because I feel like it's got the flavor. It's not just a Dominican tobacco. It's a lot more diverse blend than a lot of people realize, I feel like. And then you've now gone the way of, with like the Anniversary, you guys teamed up with Plasencia. And since Rafael Nodal has been with the company, there's all sorts of different, Plasencia, you have AJ Fernandez. You guys are using other kind of big names that were not necessarily underneath your umbrella. Mm-hmm. And then we fast forward through the Espada series, which we've had on the show. Now we're at the 1935. And we were talking about it today, Charlie, about how the 1935 Anniversary came out and all the literature was like, kind of a throwback to the Cuban, like a heritage, and like it kind of, and I lit that one up and I'm like, I don't think I've smoked a Cuban cigar this strong.
Yeah.
And I've smoked Cuban cigars on the farms. Like, I've been there and smoked them, and I smoked this AJ Fernandez product of the 1935 Anniversary. And I'm just like, holy shit, this thing's got balls. You know what I mean? Like this is a lot of strength to something that when I thought of like the classic Cuban or even the non-Cuban Montecristos, I'm like, not what I expected. Nope.
Do you remember when you were a kid and you read storybooks? Great stories involving all kinds of characters and stuff.
Where the wild things grow.
There you go.
Well, welcome to marketing. And they're great at getting the mind to create a story that makes it fun and exciting. That's great on the initial launch. The cigar itself once it starts making those multiple turns again and again and again on a shelf, that's when the cigar tells its own story and has its own legs. No matter what the story is, you need to give a cigar at least a 2-cigar try, because you never know if one might. I mean, they're 100% hand rolled. There's over 300 hands that have touched this tobacco from beginning to end. So one little error can really doesn't let that one cigar that was made, one error was made, change your decision.
Sure.
You know, you buy a brand new Corvette, and you had one little panel that wasn't pushed in just properly. It does have an effect on visually the way you drive it, but they can go back, they can fix it. It's done. That's the second cigar in that chance.
Sure.
So you need to give them at least a 2-cigar try.
Or sometimes what you've eaten or drink with it or before it can have an impact on your palate.
Exactly.
How you perceive that cigar as
Where
well.
you smoked it.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. You were talking to Travis today at the shop about how like the experience, you know, said that moment in time smoking the cigar. You can have a good moment in time and have that cigar, and it's like we talk about going on vacation. You're on a beach smoking. It's like, oh, it's the best cigar I ever smoked, and it's like I bought it off a guy on the beach for like $2. It was a real Cuban. You're like, okay, cool. You know, that was great. That was fantastic. But it's like the other side of it, you can smoke a great cigar, or you say you like this cigar, but you smoke it one time, you had a tough day at work, you got in a fight with your spouse, you know, your back's killing you, whatever it might be. It's 95 degrees out. And you're like, man, I did not like that cigar. It's like, well, that's where you smoked it, why you smoked it, what, you know, everything. But with this blend, like you scaled it back, right? Like you were talking about earlier. So you go from body, as you were talking about.
Okay. Yeah. All
Not anything else.
Yeah.
But you go back. Charlie, I know you and I were talking, like, this is what I kind of envisioned the first, like the 1935 anniversary. Would you agree?
I agree.
mean, yeah. But I also, what do you think? Good.
Absolutely. I think that this compared to the regular 1935, for me, the 1935, like you said, it's got a lot of power behind it. I mean, there's this to me. Every one of these that I've smoked, I've taken off the band and smoked it past the band.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I guess Travis, you made that look. It was just kind of like I say, scale it back. This you say subtle. I say it's more like a delicate blend.
No. The look was for. Is this what they would have smoked in 1935?
Oh,
I got to think about 1935. We don't have the techniques and the refinement like we do today in our tobaccos. So it's just like the 1930. I don't think there's any cigar we are willing to smoke that is like the original 1935 might have been.
I would agree with that. This does not taste.
But is it?
It's not a Cuban taste, in my opinion.
Is it a true elegant style that has the refinement and the vision of what Montecristo's name is? Mm-hmm. You know, Montecristo for us, it's a very I don't want to say a superior style in a cigar, but it's like that affordable luxury item. So it's a true luxury style of cigar, but it's an affordable luxury cigar. So it's one that's attained by everybody, but we want to give you that full experience of driving that Bentley, if you will. You know, we want to give you that, but we want to make it affordable. So we're proud that we can build cigars that are very elegant and very stylistic and have that flavor like it is, but make them affordable too.
What's the blend of this as far as the breakdown?
Nicaraguan Puro.
All Nicaraguan.
Yeah, it's 100% Nicaraguan.
AJ teamed up with Rafael. Mm-hmm. And Rafael's position, for those that aren't informed on that.
Rafael works with us as a partner to help blending and also in procurement for the tobaccos, creating the blends, helping in making sure that we have the blends in and the blends are right. Because every year you do a little bit of a crop change, that blend might change a little bit. And for those who maybe have smoked the Romeo 1875 or the Montecristo White Label, Romeo Reserve Royale, year after year, they taste the exact same. Well, there's a whole team that has to go into we may change one tobacco leaf in that. We've got to test that to make sure that it doesn't change the flavor, the style, the burn. So he's part of that to make sure that these are all going to be staying the same year after year.
Yeah, there are some companies that'll blend a cigar like you're talking about where they want to hit that same flavor profile every single time, kind of like with some whiskeys. But then there's the ones that's like, we're just going to use the exact same recipe and let whatever happen to the plant of impact the flavor and see what we get, see what comes out. I think as long as the construction quality of the cigar is still there, I think most people wouldn't care if the flavor changes a little bit, unless it's their favorite cigar.
See, I got thousands of customers that would argue different with you.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. I think the biggest change in flavor typically for people that like on the consumer level that are really is when you change the band on it. That's when the flavor changes the most.
When you change the band or the company gets bought,
Yeah.
everything's still
Yeah,
all the tobacco's still coming from the same places, made by the same people. But
And for the first 6 months, you got the exact same cigar. They've already been rolled in the cigar when all that happened.
Mhm.
They're in the cedar room, just sitting there waiting for a band to be put on.
yeah, that same box that was in our humidor didn't magically change.
Folks, if I'm just going to tell everybody out here that if a blend changes, we're going to tell you. We're not just going to change a band and all of a sudden the blend is different. No, we just marketing wanted to give a lift in a particular portfolio brand or like Montecristo. If we change a band on something, we're just putting a new dress on the old girl.
Yeah.
We just want to make her look pretty, but it's still the same gal underneath. She's still got a great personality. She's still got as sweet as heck, but she's a new dress.
Is this a regular production cigar?
It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How, I think part of it too is like, again, you guys being as large as you are, when you say stuff like that, the fact that it's like, you're not just going to change the blend. I mean, that's one of the reasons why blends get discontinued. That's also a reason, I think, a big part of the industry and not as you guys do it. I mean, I think this is one, I'm not quite sure. There's a lot of like limited edition cigars where it's like a one and done. Now, a lot of those one and dones, if they are able to reproduce it and they have enough crops and it sells well enough, they'll re-release it or they'll come out as a regular production cigar. Like you guys have. Is Book of Love, is that a limited run, Charlie?
I believe so. Yeah.
And like you had like the Eternal, the Envy, those were the small batch ones as well.
And limited production as opposed to a limited edition.
Yeah,
right.
And that's with us. I don't know, I'm sure other manufacturers do the same thing. But limited edition, 1,500 boxes. That's it.
Whatever it is,
that number
done.
is,
Yeah, exactly.
they're done. And then limited production, we're just going to produce it until we run out of that tobacco that makes it what it is. We're not going to try and jeopardize it.
Or if it involves a smaller crop for part of the tobacco, right? Then you have to basically, you only can make so much a year, and then you're going to try to do it, keep it up. But it's just like it's on back order for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at like the H. Upman 175th.
Oh, I was talking about that cigar today. God damn it.
It's
That's such a good cigar.
That wrapper.
I hear that so much.
Charlie said, he's like, it's almost 180th now. I was like, I don't care. I don't care.
You come out with one that's as good as it. Pick the 175th and make it the 180, if you will. It is such
Just
a
175 plus 5. Just make the same goddamn cigar.
Yeah.
I'd be good with that.
If marketing's listening, 175 plus 5.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Charlie,
Charlie,
do like the +1, +2, make it 5 sizes.
I like it. Charlie,
the issue with that was that the leaf we used on that for the wrapper was a medio tiempo leaf. Now, we've all probably heard of the word lajero. That just refers to the top third of the plant. But once you strip all those leaves off, there's 2 little leaves that'll pop out every 2, 3, 4 years that'll actually get good in size. They call that medio tiempo. They're really just leaves that help protect the flowering, but they only get really large occasionally.
Yeah.
So they aren't really harvested that often. When they do get big, we do harvest them. And that's what we used on that one was a really good, I believe it was Honduras that we used that 175th.
and I believe that one, just not to nerd out, but I think it wasn't that one, Nate, where they were sitting them in the pilones with broadleaf.
Yeah, 3-year fermentation.
Disintegrating the broadleaf more or less.
Yeah.
And just disposing of it. That was part of that cost, if I remember correctly, because Josh Bentley was on that show and we're just like sitting there like broadleaf isn't the easiest to come by right now for a lot of manufacturers. And the fact that AJ was basically like, oh, I'm just going to throw this broadleaf in there with this pilone. I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to use what we want to use as a wrapper, but it's going to help with this flavor profile. And you're just like, holy shit. All right.
Well, and
$20 cigar. I get it now,
The aging after that.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get done with that fermentation, then that something like that, it needs to rest because it's so thick. It needs that natural decomposition to thin it back down so it becomes pliable again. If it's too thick, it's not going to move.
Yeah.
So we need, that extra aging on top of it. Now, money is time and time is money.
Absolutely.
So,
Charlie, what do you think of this cigar?
I said earlier, I think it's a fantastic cigar. I mean, it obviously has some body to it, which typically what I like is more of a medium cigar, but I venture out. And I know like I said, with the 1935s, they're a little much for me. And this cigar is I said earlier that in the year plus that I've been here, this is the best cigar that we've released. My favorite cigar that we've released during that time.
I'm curious to see if this does stack up with the ratings of the 1935 anniversary, the original. It'll be interesting to see what happens as the ratings come out. Shoot, it's going to be only 4 months now. But this got out just in time, I think, for a lot of the publications to look it over, you know, as far as to see. Why the box press? Is there a reason behind this? Do we know why AJ and Raphael and everyone involved with the 1935 coming out and now this one, they're both box press cigars, which Montecristo, for me, is not really a box press brand.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm listening.
He's smirking.
No, that was it.
No, I wasn't
That
smirking
was-
at all. I was listening.
Well, Montecristo's, I mean, I'm trying to think of the portfolio you guys have with the Montecristo brand. And I know that AJ, once he got involved, I remember the Monty by AJ with the gold and black. I believe he did one for, who was it? CI or maybe with the white, the Montecristo first one by AJ, but that black and gold one, which I don't even know if you guys make anymore. Monty by Monty. With AJ,
AJ.
Yeah, the black and gold.
Monty by AJ by Altadis USA.
Yeah, that whole
yeah.
series. But were there many? I don't think there were many Montecristo's out there before AJ got involved that were box pressed. Do you guys recall?
No, box presses is, and it's not just us; it's a lot of manufacturers.
Yeah.
Are now realizing that. I mean, you could take a cigar that's really, really good, and make it really, really, really good or great by just turning it into a box press. Because you got to think about when you burn a cigar, you want that peak or that we call it conic ash because it's inverted and it's cone shaped. But when you have your burn, it should come to a peak. And the reason you want that peak is you want oxygen to come in, create the burn, but then oxygen also helps in the smoke when you're coming in, open up some of the flavoring. A box press, because it's in that shape, it actually comes to points. And you can bring in just a teeny bit more oxygen, but it just opens that flavor up just a little bit more. And it also helps in the burn rate at which you're smoking the cigar. And if you don't think this cigar is great, I can almost guarantee you're smoking way too fast. Because the speed at which you're smoking is going to be a big influence on what you're getting out of the cigar. Keep that ember as cool as you can, and you'll notice the flavors are just.
It does heat up if you start chiefing a little bit.
Oh yeah.
If you're pulling on it pretty hard, it'll heat up this blend. I will say the box press on this one. I don't know what your there's your little cone there for you. The box press for you guys, it can go either way because I know some manufacturers will basically leave a leaf out to do the box press. Some will add a leaf. Just there's a lot of whatever you guys are doing to blend it. For those out there that haven't had this yet, some box press cigars I think are extremely airy as far as the draw. I think they're a little bit lighter, and this is across a lot of different brands. Some brands are really well known for it. Some are just like, it depends. This one, for example, I will say it's a little bit more dense. This has a great draw. Nate, I don't know how yours is drawing.
Oh, mine's perfect.
Yeah. But I mean,
No
it's a dense fill. You know what I mean? As far as a filler tobacco, this is not something that's extremely airy. I don't think this is going to be a lightweight cigar in your hand. It's definitely, when you pick it up and you're smoking it, there's a great construction to it. And I don't know if that's,
when you create a box press, you want to leave just a little bit of the tobacco out of it.
right.
Because you are creating a different shape than round.
Right.
We'll make them in, like, typically when we're working with AJ or Plasencia, who we do a lot of the box pressing done at Nicaragua, we'll do one in a round. And then we'll do one in a box press and see which one we like the best. Where does that flavor really make the biggest impact? It's really what works, what doesn't work, you know. And like I say, box pressing right now seems to be fairly popular. Nicaragua is a hot country, has been for 5, 6, 7 years. So we want to kind of roll with that. Excuse me. We want to roll with that and continue with it. So if it was really good and round, we just wanted to perfect it in a box press, and we're able to do that using the box pressing method.
Do you guys think that there was a trend? I personally think that there was a trend there that as you went to the, call it the, I don't want to say, I hate the premium, super premium, all that shit, but it's like when you go to your flagship or the higher end, if you will, like I would consider this cigar based on not only the look, the way it smokes, also the price tag on it. Once you go to that point, I think box press, there was a company that really stood out with their higher end lines that were the box press. And I think that has through all the way through to the consumers. I mean, I don't know if you guys disagree or agree with this or not, but I think it's translated to when you put out a higher end cigar like this, the look of it with the gold on there and everything else, it's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's almost like the consumer equates that because of a certain brand.
Well, consumers aren't idiots.
Correct.
They're intelligent, and they know that there's extra time involved in making a box press. The steps that we go through to make a round, well, we got to make it a round before we turn it into a box press.
Right.
So there's that extra step and extra time, extra care. And knowing that, yeah, you're going to get a superior product because there is that extra level of detail that has to go into it.
Yeah, if you do it right.
If you do it right, yeah.
If you do it
Plus,
right.
aren't these really kind of considered more of a soft box press?
They are. They're
Soft box press.
For those who don't know, soft box presses, it really is just the edges,
Rounded edges.
Rounded
hard
as opposed
90
to-
degree.
sharp corners.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's an elegance to that as well, I think. So Nate, what are you thinking of this cigar? Haven't heard from you much about it.
Well, it's the first one I've ever smoked.
Okay, well then this is great.
Which,
What do you think of that cigar? That
Well-
one in particular.
Well, I mean, I can't not compare it to the original 1935 because that is my favorite cigar across the board from anybody. That's my favorite cigar. So I was really looking forward to trying this. And when the Tinder Box first got them in, I wanted to pick up a couple. Steve told me not to. And so I waited.
And now look, you got one in your hands.
Yeah, wait until tonight.
A whole week and a half or so.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, I want to try. No, it still got a lot of the strength of the original 1935, maybe backed off just a hair, but a completely different flavor profile.
Yeah.
The thing I love about the original 1935 is how bold and full the flavor is, and like this rich spice and black coffee and dark chocolate. This one, still full flavor, but it's a completely different flavor profile. This one's a lot more earthy, a lot more leather type notes to it, but still packs a punch. Just, completely different. But yeah, I like the flavor. It's different than the original, but I can't help myself but compare it to it. But it's different, but it's still fantastic.
What do you think about the aromatics coming off of it?
Such as
Do you
Just
think
the
they're
aroma.
different than the 1935? Do you think it's
it
calmer?
doesn't
relaxed?
have the spice on the palate to me that the 1935 does,
I
but
agree.
on the retrohale, that's where that spice really kicks in is through the nose.
It's like a subtle pepper.
But
Almost like a spice.
I don't know if I wouldn't call it subtle. I mean,
Well, compared to what you can with other, like the 1935 original there, I think that's got, that'll blow your nose out. I think it really does, where this one doesn't. It's a little bit more of like that subtle, there's a cedary spice to it, I feel like, in that retrohale.
It's subdued compared to the original 1935, but still has more pop than a lot of other cigars do through the retrohale for me.
A lot more complexity, but more in the background, like a really calm.
Yeah, like everything that's there, like I said, it's full flavor, but it's also balanced. There's not one dominant flavor note that's there overshadowing everything else.
Spiced graham cracker. That's what I'm going with.
Spiced graham cracker.
I was going to say spicy graham cracker,
Like
but that doesn't really
grams?
exist. Yeah, but like with more spice than sugar.
What is a spiced graham cracker?
This flavor.
Is that like those little cookies you get on American
Sure.
Airlines in the morning?
Sure.
Yeah, those little biscotti
No, I'm
things?
saying I'm saying like I'm getting like that graham cracker type flavor, but then it's got like this spiciness to it. You know
What
what I
kind
mean?
of spice? Like a cinnamon bacon
little-
A
spice?
little bit of cinnamon, but not like big red
The little
cinnamon.
ginger snap.
There you
maybe
go.
out of it,
There you go.
kinda
Now
that,
there you go.
right?
Charlie's
Uh-huh.
chiming. I like that. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Cigar aficionado or something? I don't know. Big
I
nose.
read a
Talk about
whole
that
article
little bit of
before this.
spice.
Had to brush up on it. That's what I'm getting out of it. It's very it's weird because I think that a lot of those, like the leather, the earthiness, and stuff like this, has more like the food flavor notes to me.
Yeah.
It's definitely like it kind of keeps your mouth watering. And it's got, like, when I say like the spicy, like but I think like the ginger snap, but like more graham cracker to it. It's definitely, for me, it's more food type flavors as opposed to just the I like we're talking about that grading sheet or whatever, the sheet you had there today, Travis, where it was, you had a couple of those, like the coffee notes, you had even like coffee with cream, which I had never seen that note before like that, which I liked. But then you have some of those more traditional ones where it was like, what was it? Like the grass notes and stuff, some of that more traditional type flavors. This is more food related to me when it comes to the flavors. It's like delicious in that regard, as opposed to that oakiness or the leather or the earthiness, or there is that pepper, but it's not overwhelming. I'm getting more of like what I've already said, like that graham, that ginger snap, maybe a little bit of like brown sugar, not as much molasses, but those types of food flavors I'm getting from this cigar, which I think is what's so different than the original 1935 and a lot of the other cigars out there. I think the Montecristo White, one of the reasons I think it's so popular for you guys is because there's a lot of those flavors as well. It's very like
that one's very popular because it does have that balance and flavor, but it's very creamy, very smooth. It almost has a silkiness to that smoke that it puts off, but also that nice butteriness with a subtle salt in the background. And that salty, whenever you get a saltiness in a cigar from a manufacturing side, we like the subtle, real refined hints of that salt because it helps the salivatory.
Yeah.
That salivatory response is a good memory note of I liked it, because when you salivate, when someone's making something, a food dish that you really like, you're going to salivate, right? So we want that response as a mental memory to help give you a good euphoric type place.
You're explaining way better than I did, but I think we're on the same page. That's why you get paid to do the education side.
Hey,
I just do this in the garage.
I get paid 2 nickels a day. My wife gets the rest of it.
There you go. At least someone's enjoying the money.
That and cigars, I'm good.
Right.
Good. Great company.
I'm a simple man over here.
I'm a simple man.
and maybe the double oak there is bringing out some of those.
Could be. Why do you say
flavors. I don't. I'm just saying. Maybe pairing it with the double oak.
Is that what AI told you to say?
Yeah, it is.
All right. Gotta love that AI.
It's gonna rule the world.
No, it's not.
It is.
Cigars will still be made by hand.
That's good. Yeah.
We will. I know as an industry, and I can speak for the industry in this response, we are not going to change the way we do things.
I love that
because we believe it. We've gotten really, really, really good at it, but we're never going to perfect it. And that's where hands and people and listening to the response to consumers and retailers. What are you guys looking for? We want to build that, and you can't do that through an AI. You can't talk to an AI and have a conversation about tennis shoes and bourbon and
it's getting there. It's fucking getting there. Conversation wise, I mean, look at Siri. You can have a full conversation. They're not like Siri can't roll a cigar like this, I don't think.
Oh no.
As far as a conversation.
Well, she responded to me twice today and I didn't even ask her nothing. Maybe it's just her way of saying shut up.
Could be.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the double oak. Some of the flavor profiles looks like a roasted caramel, toasted vanilla, mocha, roasted white banana, candy pecans, dry cherry, cinnamon, chocolate fudge, cola. There's a lot going on there.
Wow, let's just
I don't know what are you looking
at a
at?
freaking board.
It's the entire flavor wheel.
It's
like the flavor wheel with like little jetting out. This is just a circle.
Yeah.
It's like it's everything. It's everything. And speaking of that, would you mind passing that bottle? I'm gonna top my glass off.
Everybody in their marketing department got to pick a note.
Yeah, pick your favorite flavor. Speaking of that, so why are we drinking the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked?
When I tried them, I really felt that the great subtle flavors that are very pronounced in this, they're not overbearing and forward. So having the earth, or I felt the earthiness or the almost cooking type foods in some of their flavor notes that I got off of them would match really well with this. Plus your strength levels are very similar to each other.
They are.
We don't we go in with it, and we call it a medium strength cigar. I personally think it's like a medium to medium minus at times, but other times I think it might be like a medium plus. And I wouldn't go to a medium full, but maybe just a medium plus.
Yeah.
And I just felt this was a very good blend. And so let's try it. I tried it. I thought, these flavors really bounced off each other wonderfully.
They have so far. Would you mind handing me that dropper right there behind your lighter?
If you hadn't tried it, take it and just take a slow draw and then blow the smoke out. Then just do a smell. Just smell the bourbon. Then try it again. It's actually got quite a bit to it.
What was that again? I'm sorry, I was putting water in there.
Ben, were you counting?
Yeah, I
Take
put
your shoes off?
two drops.
What 2 drops?
I had to count to 2.
I just took the bottle. And,
I saw what you did.
I filled it up with the garden hose too. You know what the heck?
Put a little bourbon in the water, a little water in the bourbon. Now we're good.
Although I am surprised to see you, Steve, add water to something that's only 90.4 proof.
You know, I get that, and I wanted to do it on the second glass just to see, because it does have obviously a lot of the notes that Charlie had said on there, but it does have a very rich flavor to it. And kind of building off, I think, what Travis was saying, for me, I wanted to see if you open it up a little bit, which I know people are like, oh, you have to do it if it's over 100 and some proof. That's the only time you add water. You can do whatever you want, right? So with this, they say this. They
The experts.
people.
Who's drinking it?
I understand what you're saying. That's why I did what I did. I'm on the same page as you. I'm saying with this cigar.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. I think with this cigar, I wanted to see like lighten up the bourbon. I mean, I've got a nice pour. I put 2 drops of water. It's not like I watered it down by any means, but I wanted to do that just to see how it goes with the cigar. I think right there, between the two, you had said earlier today, Travis, that this was kind of to go with a old fashioned, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this cigar goes really well with a Woodford's recipe of the double oaked old fashioned, which is a little different than your typical old fashioned. So adding a couple drops of water, I wanted to like lighten it up just a hair, because I felt like going back and forth between the cigar and the whiskey, I thought the whiskey was a little overpowering of the cigar. I'm still getting a lot of flavor on the cigar. I'm not saying that, but I have smoked this without any, like just with water. The first time I did it, it was probably before noon the first time I smoked the cigar. And I think that it's smoking really well with this bourbon. So anyone out there, I definitely like the pairing. We'll get to the ratings at the end of this part 1, but I just want to see how it goes with that. But I get what you're saying, Nate, too, is that it's what, 46, you said? Like
90.4, I think, is the proof.
90.4. Spot on. Spot on.
It's almost like
you knew
do
that
for a living.
Huh.
72% corn, 18% rye, 10% malted barley. So
Okay.
it's got
Wow.
a little bit more barley content than a lot
10,
of other
yeah.
bourbons do at 10%.
Yeah.
So it gives it kind of a little bit more of that nuttiness and kind of bread notes to it. But basically, what this is they're taking their regular Woodford bourbon and then throwing it in. And there's no age statement on any of Woodford's main products. It's usually around, like the regular Woodford's usually around a 6-year product. And then for the double oak, they put it in a second barrel for up to around a year ballpark. But what they do with that second barrel is they do a very light char and then a heavy toast. So for those that may not know the difference between char and toasting, char, they do very high heat for a short period of time. And then for toasting, they do a lower heat, but for a longer period of time. The actual master distiller for Woodford, she actually said in an interview that when they char, they usually do 600 degrees for 25 seconds is their char. Because if you go too long, it'll almost just completely destroy the barrel. But then the toast, they'll do the toast at 550 for a minute. So a little bit lower temperature, but longer period of time. So that way they're breaking down a little bit more of the wood, which is pretty much just all sugar, basically. I mean, the cellulose and everything that make up wood fibers, they're kind of breaking that down, but it's able to penetrate that, that toast further into the barrel staves. So that way, when the whiskey is in the barrel, going in and out of the staves, it's able to pull out more flavors from deeper into the staves. So usually with the toast, you'll get a little bit more like your vanilla and nutty notes. Whereas, that char, that's where you get the heavier, like caramel, brown sugar. Since this is a Brown Forman product, a lot of Brown Forman products will have kind of like a peanut or black cherry note to them as well.
Yeah.
I know you don't know what peanuts taste like, Steve. But.
Yeah. I know nuttiness overall, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah, the regular Woodford, that's a $36.99 here in Ohio. The double oak, $55.99, so almost $20 more for that double oak, but it's in that secondary barrel for about a year.
That's what I was going to ask.
for about
It's a long
year.
time.
Yeah, you know, a lot of companies that do finishes on
Way less.
barrels, they do like 4 to 6 months
Right.
on finishes.
Yeah.
But to actually do a true double oak, you want it to be in there a little bit longer because you want that whiskey to get further into those barrel staves and pull out more flavors deeper within the wood.
There's certainly more, I'd say, body on this than there is normal Woodford.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, for sure.
Well, let me ask you, what is a bourbon barrel stave and cellulose? Or I mean, the wrapper for this, or help me,
What do you mean?
the plastic around the
Cellophane?
cellophane. What does cellophane and barrels have in common?
Cellulose.
They're both made of paper. Most people don't realize it.
Wood?
They're made of wood.
Yeah.
Paper is made of wood, and yeah, that people don't understand that the wrapper
Cellophane?
we put around the cellophane around the cigar, the wrapper around the cigar, that's made of paper. It's
Is it
just
really?
translucent paper.
It's not just
not plastic.
not plastic,
It's not
which is
plastic.
why it's breathable, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people ask. I had a guy ask me today, you know, should I take, because he bought like, you know, he bought like 10, 15 cigars, and he asked, you know, should I take these out of the cellophane when I put it in my humidor? And I said, no, you don't need to. This is, you know, obviously you can see in the back, you know, they're all in that. It's breathable cellophane. I did not know that, though. That's an interesting fact that it's actually paper based.
If you burn a piece of plastic, light it on fire, you'll see the color of the flame come
Yeah.
off of it, and then light one of those on, you know, the wrapper on.
Still
the
doesn't smell
cigar.
good.
It has a different color.
Really?
Hmm.
Did you know that, Charlie?
No, I did not.
I feel like we're all learning so much
Y'all
today.
learned
I'm
something.
earning my 2 nickels a day. I need a bonus. Another nickel. There,
Travis educating us all.
Looks like we got a quarter for you on the
But
table.
why did
That's
we
the
choose
tip.
Why do we? Somebody
Needs
give
a
me,
nickel.
somebody flip me a nickel. Thank you. Thank you. Hope it's not wooden. But why did I choose the old fashioned as opposed to doing straight?
Why did you?
Little bit of sweetness
Yep.
Mhm.
in old fashioned actually helped pick up a little bit more of the sweetness in
Amplifies
the
it.
tobacco itself. So it just
Amps
helps
it up.
bring it out and really highlight it. And I don't know if y'all saw where I was blowing smoke into the glass and doing the you know,
Mhm.
on that one, I was getting a ton of woodiness on it. So
On the
combined,
bourbon?
I was getting aromatic of that real woody, like the hardwood, almost a cedar-esque, but it was really a hardwoods to me.
Okay.
Out of the smell of the two combined. So I don't know if y'all saw that, but I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that one. I had not gotten that one yet. So
Yeah,
That
and
was
that's
the first
another
time I'd
thing.
done that.
Sometimes you'll get from a double oaked product is you'll get a little bit more of those wood notes. You know, obviously oak, but sometimes you'll get more of that just because it has more interaction with the barrel.
Picks up more of it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, adding the two drops of water for me, I mean, it didn't really change it a whole lot, honestly, with the volume I had in the glass and the 2 drops. But I'm now halfway through. How far are you guys with the Montecristo here? You're about
We're not talking
Third.
as much as you are, though.
Yeah.
bullshit. You can run the tape back.
Everybody just time him when he talks as opposed to us.
It's fair. It's like I host the thing.
You got the voice for it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and too bad it's not just audio.
You got a great look for radio, though.
Yeah, thank you. I've heard that before. My mom said that. Wait a
I
second.
was wondering why it was so dark in here. And
Yeah.
that makes sense. No, I'm kidding.
Normally I sit off to the side and just talk. What's Ray say? A little bit of sweetness of an old fashioned. I always have to ask them to be made a little less sweet or can't stand it. Yeah, sometimes I think when you get an old fashioned, it's
They make
especially
them-
if they
that's
use that
correct.
simple syrup.
Yeah.
If it's too much in there, it's not. I don't care for that kind of a blend of an old fashioned.
Well, I went off of the recipe that Woodford
Yeah.
did off of their website, and I actually blended that. And I theirs is done a little differently because the bitters, it wasn't just an aromatics.
Yeah.
Bitters, it was a little bit of an orange.
Mhm.
It was just a couple of drops. It wasn't very much at all. But it just that citrus mixed in with the sweetness just
Mhm.
balanced out the citrus notes out of it.
Mhm.
But they just seem to help highlight that balance in the cigar. I don't know what it was. I can't tell you exactly what.
Well, and
It
sometimes
just made it great.
because at our bar we also use typically orange bitters
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the old fashions that they make. And part of the reason for that
Bless
is, you kind of want that citrus to be there, to add another layer of flavor to the old fashioned. but having it with that bitter will actually kind of cut the sweetness of the whiskey a little bit, or the simple syrup if they're adding it. It'll cut that down a little bit, so that way now the sweetness and that citrus note are kind of there in balance.
Don't old fashions typically have that orange peel, whatever they rub on the edge of the glass too, or muddle it too.
Twist the oil, twist it, oil around it.
I've seen where they actually light it and then it releases the oils and drop it in. But I don't use, when I make my old fashions, I don't like them on the sweeter side either.
Yeah,
I use agave, and I use a tad bit. I don't measure it. I just a little bit.
Dash.
And if it's not quite enough, but it just gives that little flavor, but it's not too sweet.
See, I thought this was a great pairing with my old fashioned, but I use candied bacon.
Now here we go.
But that's a whole different show, guys. Tune in next week.
Well, what I do like about this is normally with the Woodford.
Now we got to fucking do that on the next week's show. God damn
it. Normally on the Woodford Double Oak, I get typically a lot of dark chocolate on it. Mm-hmm. But with this cigar, it actually kind of tastes a little bit sweeter.
Yeah.
So it kind of not as much dark chocolate, but a little bit more of a milk chocolate on the flavor profile.
So semi-sweet chocolate.
Sure. Just like me.
All right.
Semi, not.
Certainly not sweet. All right.
It's a limp sweet.
Wait, what did you say?
It's like a Sour Patch.
Question on the 1935 series. I don't know if you can say it or not. If there's even like a firm answer, is this part 2 of more, or is there anything in the works? Is it TBD? Is it like at this point you have the 1935 Anniversary Montecristo and you have the Diamond Edition? That's it. You're smiling.
Stay tuned.
We'll wait till we're off air.
No,
I just think that it's.
Stay tuned.
I mean,
I can't say yes on the release of anything, but I'm not going to say no because you never know what marketing and stuff come up with. It's all a matter. It's a numbers game.
That's what I was going to say. It's also basically the reaction, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
If something is good, we're going to try and continue. As a manufacturer, any manufacturer would do that. If this cigar, for some reason, the earth freezes over and this cigar flops, which I know it won't, then we just wouldn't continue that line. But I just say stay tuned.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you do that with like the original, and then you have the second, not edition, but the follow up, right, of the brand extension, you'll find there is that comparison. You don't know which way it's going to go. A lot of times, the people that are in love with that first release, like the 1935, they like this up, and this does come with a slightly higher price tag also than the original. And some people will smoke this and they're like, I like the original better. And it's just, you'll see that a lot. You guys have that Trinidad coming out too, which I can't wait to try. The Spiritu #1 was out, and it didn't really take, I don't think, that long for the #2 to follow up. It was like a year or so.
Yeah, it's about a year.
And I remember, again, Josh Bentley at the time, he's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a trilogy. And that's been 2-3 years now. It was like, all right, where's #3? I like the all Nicaraguan, #1. You did the Brazilian thing with the #2, and then you're like, oh yeah, #3. He's like, yeah, that might happen. You're like, oh, well, I thought it was happening.
Yeah, that one took a little longer than expected.
Right. Well, for those that were a fan, and you guys are fans of Trinidad and other Altadis products, we didn't even mention the Trinidad line because I think that is a line that Espiritu really kind of brought back to life. That whole project. Yep. And the #1 was also AJ Fernandez, right? And it was a all Nicaraguan cigar, great medium body. Then all of a sudden you come out with the #2, and then it's like, all right, now I'm excited for the #3. That's why I was asking that question with this. Is there thought on that? But I feel like you answered honestly. Man, this isn't even that strong whiskey. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if there is a third edition of this.
You know what? All I can say is stop in the Tinder Box once a week, ask about it. They're going to have the answers.
Buy something else until it comes
if it's
out.
Not ready. Buy one of the Diamantes, and then just stay tuned.
I will say that the response from this so far in just a matter of a couple of weeks, I know we already ordered. We got 2 boxes in. We've already ordered some more just to get. We've had some people that have tried it, have really liked it. We have I know a couple customers that come back in after trying it. They're big fans of the Montecristo line. So I think that is something to be said, that people that have smoked some of the Plasencia stuff, like the Espada line, they tried the Anniversary, and I think it was stronger than the Espada Oscuro. Obviously totally different coming from AJ versus Plasencia, but
So the Espada and the Espada Oscuro are both Plasencia.
Plasencia.
Oh,
I'm
very
saying
fair.
the 1935 come
Yeah,
from
yeah.
AJ, but we had people that were big fans of the Plasencia products, like the Espada series, which I also love. What was the signature? That was
Signature
limited.
Valiente.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice.
That's-
That was limited
That's right up there with the
production.
175th.
I know.
Right there.
It's just a great cigar.
Man. Anyways, but I think that this is a nice follow-up. I think the trend for those that maybe not have smoked Montecristos in a while, because it's the white series, right? It's not for me very, that much. People that have kind of, in a sense, air quotes, moved on from Montecristo. The Espada series, I think, brought a lot of people back to Montecristo. I think teaming up with Plasencia was a great, strong move, especially the way that Plasencia has now put themselves back on the map with their own line of cigars in the last, what's been almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that name now carries more weight, that it's like, oh, you like Plasencia? Have you tried this Montecristo Espada? Well, I don't smoke Montecristos. This is made by Plasencia. I'll try it. And now we're going into this whole thing.
Well, the Espada was a fun one because we went to Plasencia wanting to build the first Montecristo Nicaraguan Puro, and coming out of Nicaragua. So we went to Plasencia. I mean, you go with the largest and say, what can you do? Help us help you.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. And he got excited because he's, of Cuban descent, and he wanted to really, he loves the core brand of Montecristo being a Cuban brand.
Sure.
The love is there, just like with AJ. AJ loves those core brands coming out of Cuba that he has done well with us with, like the H. Upman by AJ and others. But when we created the Espada, the priming right above where we were choosing the wrapper leaf, he looked at that and did sugar count tests and said, I want to see what this does as a Maduro. And let me put it into fermentation. Let me see what a Maduro cycle of fermentation. And for those who don't know, it's just a matter where we leave the heat in the fermentation or the pelons, where that heat goes. The higher the temperature, the shorter it can cook. And so that's going to come out a lot lighter in color. The lower that temperature, we need a lot more time on it because you can't let it heat up as fast. So with keeping that lower temperature, having to go almost 3 years, that's why you saw the Espada wasn't released until 3 years later. But the binder, filler, and wrapper is all from the same crop, harvested the same year, and really it's the same plant.
Yeah.
All the way across the board, but there's way two different smoking styles that come out of it, even though the binders and fillers are identical.
You're talking about the Espada and the Oscuro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are identical from the farm.
But the wrapper's different.
The wrapper, one went through natural, one went through Maduro.
Interesting.
A 2.5 year Maduro cycle. Yeah. So but it completely changed the flavor profile. Where I've always said, the wrapper's where the money is at. That's why we spend so much money on the wrapper.
It's funny you say that because I've talked to people, in working retail as long as I have, because I got a chance when I worked for a cigar company to go down to the factory and see that process, and I tell them about that fermentation that they do, and I'm like, imagine a giant chalkboard all the way across the wall, and they're sitting there taking temperature readings multiple times a day just on that chalkboard to find out like when they need to rotate that tobacco or when they need to move it around because they don't want to let it get too hot or it needs to get a little hotter. And they're like, that's a lot of work and a lot of people. I'm like, yeah, why do you think cigars cost what they do? There's 300, 400 hands involved in the process.
And from
it
seed
takes
to
so many years for, from the time you plant that seed to the time it's, on your, on your retailer's shelf. I mean, we're talking years.
minimum 5 years.
Yeah.
Minimum 5 years.
Yeah.
And we're going through the biggest boom the last 2 years that we've ever seen in the industry. So all of a sudden now you've got to try and recoup. We're only 3 years into it, and we need 5 years for tobacco. And people ask me, today we were talking about how, why is this on back or when's this going to come in? It's your standard lines that come in. I'm like, guys, we just need time on the tobacco, and hence the Trinidad Espiritu #3. We just needed time.
No, I get
we
it.
need time for that tobacco to get ready.
Yeah.
Well, it comes down to that too, and just to briefly talk on that is you also only have so many rollers. You only have so many people doing each individual. You talk about how many hands are on that tobacco's aging, but also if you've got, your core lines, if you will, well, you might have even more age on those, the new blends that you're waiting on, because we need to put out, speaking with Montecristo, it's like, we need to have our rollers rolling the white series. We need to fulfill the demand for what's already,
what's paying your bills.
The demand is already there. We can put out the new cigar after we fix this part of it. I mean, it's a business that a lot of people don't realize the business aspect of it. They just expect things to be there. I think that's just the American way a lot of times, but
just add another shift, turn the key up a little bit more, just make more. It doesn't work that way.
Just real quick, I thought it was so funny. We've talked about on the show is that when we had all the shutdowns here in America and across the world, and we were starting to open back up, and we were trying to explain to people, it's like, the factories, in Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican, like they're all backed up, and like literally like multiple times, many people. Why? And you're like, well, so like, like they had to shut down and work with social distancing as well. And just the light bulb, and just like I even said it back then, I was like, just not arrogance, but it was just like the ignorance of like the American public. It was just like, oh yeah, so those countries, yeah, I get it, they're third world countries too, but they also have governments that they have to, like the factories, they shut down as well, because COVID, it was a worldwide thing. Or like, yeah, like not just here, Europe and Asia. Like, it's like it was everywhere. It's like, so they're a little bit behind as well. Like just so you guys know.
Just so you know, the penguins even had to be distanced out down Antarctica.
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, it was a big thing.
It's on National Geographic. Yeah,
I caught that on CNN.
I'm kidding. All right, let's not get into that.
I don't think the virus is going to live down there.
I was doing a factory tour in Honduras come end of February of 20. I was literally watching the news like hourly.
Yeah.
Do we need to get to the airport sooner? Right. We all got back a week later. Everything shut down. Contacted the factories and said, hey, what's going on with the tobaccos? And because we've already got plants in the ground, we've already got stuff hanging in the curing barn. They need to be tended to on a daily or 2 times a day, at least to check them. And then you got fermentation piles. They're doing their job. Then you got to unstack and restack when they hit that temperature. They considered them workers that needed to be there.
Essential workers.
So they had to go in there. They had to do things, but they were on a very limited number. We're still recovering from all that.
Yeah.
So those who see that the cigar that they really, really like and can't get a hold of, try the Diamante or try something that we make that we have in stock. But if we don't, it's one of ours that isn't in stock, be patient.
Yeah,
we're just waiting for the tobaccos to be ready for you, because we don't want to give you any SHIT cigars.
You can. Oh, I don't know about we curse on the show.
Oh, fuck right on.
I don't know what all of this policy was.
I just didn't.
I've cursed so many times on this already.
Some podcasts I go and they say, don't curse the first hour. Okay.
I've cursed a lot.
Yeah.
We put an explicit on the. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Well, we can't
be yourself.
We can't be monetized on YouTube anyway because it's cigars and tobacco and alcohol.
Yeah.
But normally on those, you'll lose your monetization if you curse within the first 30 seconds.
Really?
Oh yeah.
45 seconds. You're good. Cool.
So we should get that sign out around the front says ATF.
Yeah.
We support.
All of a sudden, I'm telling you, there will be a point in the next year or two that all of a sudden the view count will just pop back up again. I'm just saying it's going to happen. But telling you guys that our view count went down overnight back in like mid 2021. Pass that down. All right, this is the part one here, and then I know I've got some messages here about part 2. But
do we have any questions on part 1?
It was so we did have the one about you being only in the U.S. and then the follow up from Ray. So Ray is in Vietnam, and he said his response to that. Hang on, I gotta scroll back here.
Basically, there's a lot of cigar smokers out there where he's at and in different places of the world that he visits that they don't have a lot.
You'll find it. Go ahead. I don't know if I'll be able to find it on
this. The new school of tobacco,
he calls New World.
New World. And, all they know is Cuban.
Right.
And I try and explain to people. You brought it up. Talk about the United States consumes 2/3 of all the cigars produced.
Yep.
That's what they're trying to make cigars for, or what those manufacturers should be making for, because that's what's paying your bills. But the rest of the world doesn't necessarily get that same level of education that you go around the U.S. doing. And so he's like, yeah, these people
Yeah, I
out here,
can't
like,
find
they
the
want to learn about cigars, newer cigars and new brands and stuff like that. It would be nice if someone would, was out there teaching them. Just share the podcast with them, right?
Yeah.
Share the podcast.
It's hard to pick up that comment. Yeah, he said, so there's nobody that covers the rest of the world. That's what his question was. And
Yeah.
so perhaps that's why sales aren't as good outside the U.S. is what he said.
That and production issues.
Well, I think now you're going to see just a real quick, to get on that topic and then go to the ratings here, is that I will be interested, and we've talked about it on the show before, is how the Cuban market has now been altered as far as price points and where the cigars are going from Habanos SA. I know that companies of your size, let alone smaller companies, are trying to do more on the European market, especially worldwide, but especially I think targeting that European market, because a lot of the cigar stores over there that were Cuban heavy, they're not even getting the cigars. Their consumers can't afford that price increase worldwide. So there's a huge opportunity for the quote American cigars to get elsewhere in the world. So I think Ray, I know Ray, he's part of the community. He also shops from very far away at Tinder Box. When he's able to have someone travel here and be able to bring some back, we put together a package for him.
A mule.
I can't say that on. Yeah, you can. But yeah, no, it's.
I can curse, but
no. It's one of those things. I can't ship to certain parts. So, anyways, the point is that he also posts on we have Bourbon and BS community page. If you guys are on Facebook, Bourbon and BS community page, like 1,700 members. He's on there and he'll post cigars that I know I didn't send him. You know what I mean? So this is something that he's getting cigars, and I'm actually shocked sometimes because I know the cigars, but it's like I'm surprised he's getting them in Vietnam. But there is this huge opportunity there that with the shift of the Cuban market, where this goes, which hopefully the U.S. comes first with a lot of these cigars from like Altadis and other companies.
Unfortunately, we can't.
You can or cannot.
We got a brand agreement that if it's a U.S. version of Montecristo per se,
it's not going over there,
and a Cuban version of Montecristo, there's a trade agreement where we will not ship outside the U.S. and we can't ship theirs in. So we make a couple of lines that are worldwide, like Vega Fina.
Yep,
Vega Fina 1998.
That was huge in Europe before here. That was before, yeah.
Well, it's an affordable, very consistent cigar. Every time you fire that up, it's the same flavor, and it's one of my frequent yard guards. When I'm mowing the yard or putzing out in the garage, I know what I'm gonna get. I'll fire it up. It's the same every single time.
Nice,
great stick. And then the other one's aging room.
I was going to say aging room, yeah. Butera, obviously, I could go over there if you wanted to, right?
Yep.
There's no competition.
Yep, no Cuban ties.
We do this at the end of part one here. I know, Travis, you've been on here. Rating time, whiskey, cigar, and pairing. So, Charlie, if you haven't been on here before, I know you've listened to it before, but 10 is the best. We give 3 ratings, 1 on the whiskey, 1 on the cigar, and 1 on the pairing. It's completely yours. Not like having that sheet that you had in the shop today, which is again amazing. This is
I didn't bring my glasses, so thank you.
Purely your opinion. This is subjective for you. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Charlie, get in there.
So what I said earlier is I love this cigar. So I'm gonna go on the cigar alone. I'm gonna give it a 9. Now just because 10s for me is just I don't know. I don't like.
Can you think of a 10?
Bo Derek.
Derek.
Boy, that shows your age.
All right.
And I'll actually go across and I'll give the Woodford Double Oaked an 8.
Okay.
And pairing them together.
Yeah.
To solid 8.
Good ratings. Travis, how about you?
The cigar, I'm going to put it around a 9.6. It's not quite the perfect for me. There's a couple of things that I personally like a little more out of it. I like more of that leathery notes, but that comes into my Western upbringing and saddles and stuff. It just brings a good memory to me.
Sure.
But it has a very good balance out of it. I think that just has the flavors really work well together with the age that's on it. The whiskey, I would probably put it right around the 7.5, maybe an 8.
Okay.
I love the Woodford products, but I'm more of a rye. kind of guy.
Sure.
As a pairing, I think I would be with you in probably around that 8 mark. I think the old fashioned is a little bit better because it needed that little bit of sweetness and that little bit of aromatics that go into the in there. I think it just needed that little bit more to help pull it out, because I think as a pairing with that blend, I thought it would have been up into the 9s.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Is there a bourbon, not a rye, but Travis, a bourbon that you think would go better with this cigar? Obviously, you don't think it's a bad pairing, but I mean, is there one that stands out, or have you had with this?
Bourbon.
Or do you think it would go better with a rye?
I don't think a rye would go with it at all.
That's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, no, it just on its own. I'm just saying that the whiskey on its own, it's just not quite my style.
Mm-hmm.
I like more the rye styles, so with a little more of that woodiness, like extra woody, you know, that
little spice.
Little spice. That's
little
right.
spice
Little
to
spice.
Yeah.
I think the spice you're gonna get off of that rye it's gonna drown out anything you get on the cigar. So.
Gotcha. Nate, how about you?
On the whiskey, I'm not a huge Woodford fan, and I also prefer a couple other double oaks that are out there on the market. So the Woodford Double Oak for me is a 7.5, and like some of those other double oaks are still coming in around that same price point. So some of the double oaks that I can get at my store, I'll gravitate towards those over Woodford Double Oak. So 7.5 on that. So the cigars, easy 9 for me. Just coming in under the original 1935, which, like I said earlier, that's my go-to. Shouldn't say go-to. That's my favorite cigar.
What would you rate the 1935 original? Like the regular 1935 anniversary?
That's at least a 9.5 for me. Yeah, I love that cigar. For the longest time, I'd had what I always used to tell people was my favorite cigar, but the company that made that stopped making it a very long time ago. So it doesn't exist anymore. So I'm like, okay, if someone asks me what's your favorite cigar, I might want to pick something that actually exists and they can get now.
They still make Henry. They still make Dutch Master. If you were looking at that, if it was that, they still make those. I don't know if that was your favorite.
Wait, so you're saying a Dutch Master is better than this?
In your eyes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah. Some of them are wrong.
How about the pairing?
The pairing, I'm actually going to go 9 on the pairing, because the cigar, even though it's not a very heavy, bold cigar, it actually brings out more sweetness, I feel, in the whiskey. Like it brings out more of like the caramel and brown sugar notes of the whiskey than what is there on its own. So I think the whiskey is helped tremendously by this cigar.
You get the brown sugar out of it. You get they brought out brown sugar for you
As the pairing.
Okay,
not on
all
its
right.
own.
No, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
as a pairing, you brought out brown sugar in it. And see, I didn't get that. But that's I didn't think to look for that. But
I mentioned that earlier on the cigar, if you remember that.
You did.
Yeah. We were talking about food flavors.
Yeah.
The whiskey for me, the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, Nate, to your point, Woodford that was one that before all this bourbon craze came around, that was kind of like, I felt like that was like the top shelf bourbon not that long ago, not that many years ago. It was something like, you had different whiskeys at a bar and there were no options. There were nothing. Whiskey was what? Jack, Beam, and then you had Johnny. Like that. If you go to a lot of bars, that was fucking it.
I was at a bar in Chicago. The only whiskey they had was Jameson.
It's a great whiskey.
A little sweeter Irish whiskey.
It is. That's my NFL Sunday whiskey. But with like Woodford, like for example, like we went to a resort and like you were a part of like the VIP club or whatever. You get that higher end club. It's called the Excellence Club. And like Woodford was like the premium. And this was in Mexico. And I think that really at the time, several years ago, I think Woodford was like that was like, oh yeah, Woodford, holy shit. Like, yeah, okay, I'll get that. I don't want Beam. You know what I mean? Like it was that. Double Oak came out, and I don't know the timeline here, but I think Double Oaked was something that it's like, well, if you want to pay $20 more, this has got a lot more to it, a lot more character. You know what I mean? This is before the barrel strengths really got popular, before the cast strengths, before all this 100 and whatever, all the heat. So for me, I think thinking what's out on the market now, the Woodford Double Oaked, I'm going to still give it 8. I think this is a great bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And price point, when you talk, what was it, Nate? 50?
It's under 60.
$55.99.
Yeah, it's under
55. And we talk about anymore, your entry level for a lot of new whiskeys, a lot of new bourbons on the market come out with like MSRPs of basically $40 to $50.
Yeah.
And it's because either they're small, they're celebrity endorsed, whatever it might be. But I think 40 to 50 is that new entry level or average price for a new bourbon on the market. Could have a good one, could have bad. With this double oaked, I think you know what you're getting most of the time. And I think they're coming in at that what we say 90, a little over 90 proof. It's a nice bottle. So I'll give that a solid 8. You know what you're getting for $55 from Woodford Reserve. You like the bottle or you like the flavor notes, grab it. And I think a lot of people that have gone into the bourbon craze or anything like that, this has now been passed over by a lot of people that I don't think that it should be revisited as just like a daily bottle, like a daily sipper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
$55 is a little expensive for a lot of people for a daily sipper, but this is something that's like, if you're going to have a nightcap or whatever, it's like, yeah, pull this bottle back out of your bar. It's probably been collecting dust because now you've got all the new craze or the tough to find ones. It's like, this shit's it's sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
This is available. So if you kill the bottle, like you can go pick up another one.
Well, and to your point, outside of anything allocated like Buffalo Trace or Miller,
right?
at our store, regular Woodford is our best-selling whiskey.
Well, and like you said, it's $35 a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That's your everyday. That I
Absolutely
love it. I could have it every day sitting in the hot tub.
It's a great mixer. I like a
to
Woodford Manhattan. I love that.
To your point, I mean, if I wanted just a quick nightcap, a single finger as opposed to a double or triple after work kind of thing, I think a single finger just to cap the night off. I think this would be a good one to settle with, where a rye would be too hot for me at late in the evening.
I got you. Yeah, no, it's a very good bottle. The cigar, I'm with you guys. For me, it's a 9. I think this cigar, you guys really knocked it out of the park with this. It's not for everyone. Like to Nate's point, he likes the fuller body stuff, so he goes to the 1935 original, if you will, or the whatever you want to call it. But the first part of this, hopefully series, but it's going to be something that I give a 9. There's a lot going on. It is some people will call it a more subdued version or a subtle version. I consider it like more of that delicate, that balanced. Elegant is a great word for it, Travis. I think this is a wonderful cigar. The reason I probably wouldn't go any higher than a 9, and that's just me being kind of subjective there, is that it does come with, for a Montecristo especially, it's a higher price point. Montecristo has been kind of one of the higher price point brands that you guys have in your portfolio. Like Montecristo is it, right? You have like Romeos are great cigars, but it's like they're priced under that. So Montecristo is kind of like your go-to, right? That's your flagship. And now that you have Montecristo's coming out over $20, there's no reason that they shouldn't, because the market is there already. Montecristo and what you guys are doing with AJ, with Plasencia, even with your Grupos de Maestros, with your own factories, there's so much out there that I would encourage everyone. I'm not just saying it because you guys are here. This is my thing with Montecristo, is that it was overlooked for a long time, much like Woodford. I think this is a fitting pairing for that reason as well, because Woodford is old news. Montecristo is old news. They're still good, and now you guys are coming out with more. Are you going to give me money?
Yes. You pull out some gas. Hey.
I try to say that because you guys do sponsor the show, and I'm not going to dog your cigar, but I'm not trying to be honest too. I'm being honest about it. That's what I'm saying. This cigar, this series that has happened so far, much like your Trinidad that you guys have been doing with AJ. I mean, the fact that you teamed up with Plasencia and AJ, it was a better move, I think, than some companies that they slapped it on there, or they tried to change the branding of their older brands to try to grab boutique-y people or like the new. It's like, no, AJ's hot as shit. Plasencia is hot as shit. Let's work with them. They've got so much. They're one of the biggest growers. AJ's got like probably one of the biggest catalogs of tobaccos available to you. So it's like, work with them. You guys did a great job with this. The price point, it doesn't steer me away from it. It's just one of those things, like if this was if this was like a $15 cigar, like a Montecristo white, like whatever, 14, but then you're charging too little for it. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at the 9. The pairing, I like the pairing. Like I said, I'll give the pairing a 9. Would love to try it with a double oaked old fashioned. So I'll have to look that up and try to make that with this cigar. But I think it went really well together. The whiskey overpowered a little bit, adding a couple drops of water. I think it kind of balanced it out. But I also like the pairing, like I said, where it's like Woodford's been overlooked, Montecristo's been overlooked. It's still just such a great brand name that to a lot of people, if you guys haven't, like I said earlier, you have a double oaked bottle on your shelf in your bar, and all it's doing is collecting dust because you're trying what's new, what's next, all this stuff. Grab that Montecristo, try some of the old brand portfolio. And with this one, if you're lucky to have it, because this is slowly rolling out. I know it's not everywhere, correct? I mean, you're trying.
It's not everywhere. I mean, we're kind of handpicking where we're putting it initially, and then rolling it out from there. So. Yeah.
So any of the stuff that you read about or hear about on shows like this, that you see them teaming up, and I'm not saying steer clear of what your own factories. You see them teaming up with Plasencia on different your brands. You guys have like the Romeo, Eternal, the Envy, those series. Those are tough to come by as well. But you see those projects coming out that are with Plasencia or AJ. You guys did it for a reason, and I think it's worthwhile trying. So, I mean, I definitely think this is a fantastic pairing.
Well, and if I could just throw out real quick just go, your whiskeys you mentioned on the shelf collecting dust. We all want to get those rare things. Cigars. We make these things to consume, share with your friends, have a group together. We don't want this stuff just collecting.
No,
we want to make cigars you guys want, and I know whiskeys are the same way.
Yeah,
they're meant to be enjoyed and relished amongst your friends and family. So
yeah, start a podcast in your garage and just try them with people and turn on Facebook. Try that too.
Hey,
that's another way to do it.
Get 185 shows, you get me on.
That's right. Guys, cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. For those that are live right now, we're going to take a quick intermission. We'll keep the stream going. We're going to do part 2 here from the audience. We've got a lot going on with from the comments on the Bourbon and BS community page. Other than that, enjoy your week.
Cheers, y'all. Did I just say y'all?
Yes, you did.
I did say y'all.
It's the hat.
I love it. I slipped out. Oops.
I do have a question for the intermission part.
All right, we're at 1:29.
So the 1935, number 2 cigar of the year, huge press, huge accolades. Was there any concern about following it up with something like this? And
always is. You could have a cigar that is as good as the 1935 anniversary. People will look at it as it's average. Then the bar's been raised, right? So you got it like what Rafael did with the Cuatro Nicaragua.
Yep,
came out with the Sonata. To me, it
was a very similar move to this.
We're going after that elegance with a real rich complexity to it, because that's where we're seeing the U.S. consumers going from that really big, bold forwardness to that medium with a lot of complexity in the background. It's got more elegance to the style, the way that the flavors come across. We're seeing that trend in the U.S. consumers. So we're trying to stay ahead of that curve and see if we can't beat that and join up with that. So
we got Jonathan Herring. He's with Forge. He said he met you at the Cigar Fest last year in Texas.
Oh, he said what?
He met you at Texas.
Jonathan Herring. He's with Forged.
Yeah.
Can you see that? I don't know.
I know, but I'll take
your glasses far or close or both?
Both.
Cool.
Well,
you look great though. You look great. That's all that matters.
Neither of them really work because even you got cataracts in the way too.
Yeah. It's like major league. It's like seeing's the important thing, not that.
As long as I can feel my way around, that's good.
That's right.
How do you get closer? I tell my wife that. Remember the pandemic? You said everything shut down?
Yeah.
I think that's my wife learned the word no. Damn it.
Wow.
Fucking pandemic.
Wow. Does anyone need to hit the head or anything? You guys good to roll?
I'm good.
Cool.
Where's my next cigar?
Book of Love, it looks like, which I know nothing about other than the packaging. Badass.
We aren't going to be all smoking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, we are?
Oh, you don't have to. You can smoke whatever you want.
I think I'm going from this to that one. I think that's milder.
Yeah.
Flavor.
Watch the mic. Look at that. It's perfect.
Hey,
we've lost a lot of whiskey before on this table. No, we have.
Didn't spill any whiskey.
Anyone out there that's tuning into part 2 here, we're about to get rolling. I'm going to put this up on the screen if I can see it. I even got the bigger screen, Nate. I still can't read it. But ask any questions or comments on the feed.
Jonathan, the first line when you swipe right, it literally says Charlie Ward.
What?
Because Jonathan was asking, like, who's the guy next to Travis? Like, oh, that's our rep. And Ray's like, well, if you swipe right, you'll be able to read it. He goes, doesn't say anything.
Sure.
We have a couple of gentlemen from Altadis USA, Charlie Ward
I got you here.
and Travis. Like,
I got it. Find it here.
Yeah, we'll put the banner up for you, Jonathan.
There you go.
I'm
There you go.
Larry. I'd like to introduce Bob.
Yeah. My other brother, Larry. So what are you smoking?
Is that the new Onyx?
Yeah,
Oh.
I smoked this today. It's good.
Damn you.
Ray, Charlie is our regional sales manager, right?
Yeah, well, whatever
Rep.
we're called, territory sales manager.
Sure.
Same thing, Jonathan.
Jonathan, he's your equivalent. So
Yes.
he's a rep for now. He was the rep actually in this area for general, and now
Right.
he's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who Jonathan is.
Yeah.
I know who you are.
Oh, thank you.
Are we live?
We're still live. Yeah,
live.
we just
Everybody?
stream through it, and then when I do the audio, I cut it.
Just want to let everybody know that, yes, I am this tall and skinny.
I'll try to pull up some of these topics here. Nate, are you doing the same on one of yours?
I can.
It would be helpful.
Sure.
I don't know if I had any on this one. It's all on the community page.
And I think the crowd is a little disappointed because we're not Mr. Bentley.
Yeah, I know.
Not dressed like him.
Not.
That guy's such a sharp dressed man, I tell you.
I need a hat.
Will you pass the bottle, please?
I need a hat with a flower in it. Come on, Josh. Hook me up.
You want to top off?
Absolutely.
That way you don't have to pasture as much.
Oh, here, should we do the Woodford?
Oh, yeah. Keep the label out. No, Jonathan Herring's a part of the community. Definitely. He's been on the show several times, and he actually is funny. He also met you, I think, or at least you were at the same event, Smoking 10 event last year. He doesn't cover this territory anymore, but he actually came up because we didn't have a rep and we weren't doing forage at the time, you know. So like Ryan Pontus was still with Alec Bradley.
Yeah.
Technically, it was right around.
Right.
But he came up to the 10 event because he's part of this community and he knows a lot of the people that go into Tinder Box. So he flew up for that. It's great. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 286. We are still sitting here with Travis and Charlie from Altadis USA. And Nate, were you waving your hand? Or are you
No, I
pointing?
was
Your
pointing.
point. I got you.
No.
Got you.
No,
Yeah. So
was never.
You melted your
we-
bottle cap.
I was trying to get to burn.
we just oh boy, a little pyro action. We just finished up part one. And part one, guys, if you're listening to the audio and haven't listened to part one, we're talking a lot about the Montecristo. This is the 1935 Edicion Diamante or Diamond Edition. This is going to be, yeah, it smells great.
Thanks,
Here.
Travis.
Aromatics, baby.
Not always good.
Ruined my palate.
But as I was saying, Montecristo. So check that out. The Diamond Edition or Diamante of the 1935 was a follow up, and then also we were drinking, still are drinking, the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. And so if you're just now tuning in and you're listening to part two on the audio, click back to part one. A lot of information there from Charlie and Travis about what Montecristo is doing with this blend and what we think of it. And also we talked a lot about the bottle and the pairing as well. Part two, so this is kind of beyond the BS. This is what we do. We're doing community topics again tonight. So on the bourbons, apparently there's a chopper out.
I'm over here.
It's always a good sign.
Charlie is sitting
as
right
long as we don't see the spotlight.
Well, I was
under us.
going to say, why is the spotlight though?
Looking for
in the
Charlie.
cul-de-sac.
As long as it's not in Steve's front yard, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. I got the Citizen app. I think we're good. I haven't seen any pop-ups yet. See a lot of them.
He caught
great.
the guy in Pennsylvania, so
That's right. That's
I
right.
caught him.
Saw that. In part 2, so I want to thank, before we get into it too far here, obviously you guys on patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. This has been a great help. Venmo at Bourbon and BS. Those are the ways you guys can contribute financially to it. Helps us keep this thing going. You know, everything from where we broadcast this through StreamYard, live, the audio, and just anytime we need bottles and stuff like that, it helps out with all the guests, obviously bringing stuff, but you know, Nate and I do this on the side, and we appreciate that. Also, share, like, and comment and review. That's the best way you guys can contribute as well, is get more people involved in the conversation, which I appreciate, whether it be part 1 or part 2. I also want to thank Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. That's where this is based out of, in Columbus, Ohio. Tinder Box at Easton is our home shop. They carry all the Altadis products, not all of them, a lot of the lines, but they do have the Montecristo Espada. Montecristo 1935. We do have the Espada.
You do?
1935 Anniversary Diamante, also the 1935 Anniversary, along with all the brands you see behind us. We do have some of this, the Book of Love, which I haven't smoked yet. Have you?
I have.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Nate? Looking forward to it. Also, Altadis USA, you guys have been fantastic. I appreciate you guys being on. Travis, I know you're from down Florida now.
That's where
Right.
my wife says I'm from. But I only get to visit once in a while.
That's where your mailing address
Yeah,
is,
it's
right?
mailing address is where my
Perfect.
That's
paycheck
where the
goes.
checks. Yeah, that's where the checks get mailed to.
She says she
Perfect.
cashes it, it clears, and she's happy. Yeah,
Good,
My
good.
life is good.
Happy to hear it. BS Cigar Company as well. The gold and silver are available. If you guys want any swag, buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. byjack.com/Bourbon and BS. Nate's got that 3/4 sleeves. Love those. They turned out great, man. And I've got the podcast shirt that says, pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. So check that out. There's also some hoodies on
Yeah, I
there.
brought the barrelhead hoodie just in case it got a little chilly.
I
But
think we're good.
we're good.
Yeah, yeah.
Last week you were sweating your forehead off.
I'm a sweater. It's just what I do. All right.
I'm
So
from South Florida, and yet I'm still here in a thin shirt, so it's good.
The weather's great.
Great weather.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Couldn't
Fall.
ask
We're in the fall.
This is-
This could be cold for
perfect.
you.
Tonight it would be. Yes.
I'm just glad we didn't pair it with pumpkin spice latte.
Oh.
No, thank you.
We don't do pumpkin flavored whiskey on the show.
We tried to get a vanilla frosty earlier at Wendy's, and nope, no more vanilla frosties.
they don't make them?
Chocolate or pumpkin spice.
Oof. The only seasonal shake that you ever want is a Shamrock shake from McDonald's, right?
Good stuff.
My wife would disagree with you on that.
No,
She loves the one from Chick-fil-A.
The peppermint.
The peppermint chocolate.
I'm not
and-
familiar with the
she-
Chick-fil-A portfolio.
She'll wait in
shakes.
line for that damn thing first day that you launch.
I believe
Oh,
it.
you wait in line for anything.
At Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole
That's it.
line's 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, they
that's
go
true.
fast. They go
That's-
fast.
That's kind of the Chipotle theory, right? You put them all on the line, make it feel like, oh, I got to get there. And then they're through real quick.
All right. So I know some people are listening for part 2. I want to do a segue real quick. This is kind of like from the bourbon and the cigar side. We have Kyle out there asking, possibly talk about how a noob can get into bourbon, aka I just hit the aka someone like me. The burn is growing on me. So I know Travis, you said you're a rye guy.
Mhm.
Nate, you're a rye guy. But Nate, I'll have you field that question first, because you are obviously, this is part of your career now, is that you're working with a lot of people. We've done it on the cigar side a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of times people come in just getting into cigars, kind of the same thing. Just getting into bourbons. Like what would you recommend? Because a lot of times people come into, I'm sure your store as well, on the bourbon side, and they're like, well, I'm just getting into whiskeys, and what would you recommend? That's all they ask.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, well,
There's so many different, just like with cigars, there's so many different routes that you can take. The one thing I would recommend, Kyle, is don't go chasing what all the hunters and all the taters chase. You're too new into it to go sit there and spend hours waiting in line for trucks to show up or for stores to open, for all the allocated stuff to drop. And definitely don't pay any secondary prices for anything getting into it. Find something that is regularly available on the shelf just about anywhere, and find something that's a good daily sipper. There's a lot of options out there because I mean that was kind of my reputation. When I first kind of joined the podcast panel was I was that guy that was finding like those sleeper bottles that were like under $30.
How quickly that changed when you started working on Carfagnas.
Yeah, didn't it?
You became a nerd.
No, yeah, you should see what happened to my wine cellar too.
Oh boy, here we go.
But no, there are still some great bottles out there. For example, Old Forester, the regular Old Forester 86 proof. It's a $22 bottle.
Yep, sure.
The
is.
100 proof is like $25 now. Ezra Brooks 99, right at $24.99. That's a great one. There's a lot of
Woodford.
Regular Woodford,
yeah, at 36. Probably one of my favorites is Russell's Reserve small batch, or the 10-year
10,
small
10,
batch.
yeah.
good stuff.
It's a shame at the beginning of this year that went up in price because I believe in January that was the same price as what Woodford is now. It was $36.99.
Yeah, it's $42.99.
Yeah. But I get people that come in, they're always looking for Blanton's. And unless you're waiting in line at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, you're not going to get it.
Or if you show up this morning at Kroger's to grab this and they say, hey, would you like a bottle of Blanton's?
Oh, so
happened?
You were lucky enough to come on truck day.
We're picking this up.
Look at that. Good
And
for
the
you
guy
guys.
said, "Can we
You
sell
both
one?"
bought one, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good for you
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
But no, anytime I have people coming into the store and they're looking for, one of those allocated items, I try and put them onto something that is comparable, that is readily available on the shelf. If they're looking for Blanton's, I actually go towards Russell's Single Barrel.
Mm.
It's the same price point. It's a higher proof, but I think it's a richer, more flavorful product. So, if you're in that $65, $70 price point, like I think that one's a great one to go with. But
Do you ask questions like I would in cigars?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
say like, what
That's his
type of
background,
food,
though,
coffees,
before that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and do you ask them these
Yeah.
certain questions? Because I know for me, like was it the Jack Daniel's barrel strength or the single barrel?
Single barrel.
Yeah, the single barrel.
Single barrel.
Proof.
That would be for me. I would step right into that one.
Yeah.
That would be like it's not too hot. For me they're perfect, but that's my palate. So
They also have a single barrel rye.
which I've done pairings with like our San Andreas Romeo.
Yeah.
I did that at a pairing about 5-6 years ago.
Just be on the lookout. They just changed their label on that one.
Uh-huh.
They went from the red label to a green label.
Because that's the standard rye label.
That's a whole different batch then.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
totally. It doesn't
Totally
taste the
different
same.
product.
Is it like cigars?
Different sticker.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I'd say this though, like if based on the comment is that he's getting used to the burn. First of all, I would, just like the cigar world, I would find a shop that has some people that you don't feel intimidated by. At the same time, they don't just stand behind the counter, right? So I think that's something where like your shop Carfagnas. You go in looking for like the real, like what you've heard of, like the Blantons and stuff like that. There's different reasons why you hear that. But if you're just getting used to the burn, we have talked on the show before with part ones is that it's not always the proof. Sometimes real high proofs can have less burn, be more balanced than things that are like, say, 100 proof versus like 125. I'll also say, with the cigar side, I'll say try everything, right? So everyone like, try flavored or sweet or try real mild. Ask those questions like Travis was alluding to, ask those like, what do you like? Do you drink coffee? Do you drink wine? Do you anything else you enjoy?
How do you like your steak? What temperature do you want your steak at? Or there's just different things that you might.
Personal preference.
I don't know
that's right.
about whiskeys. I know cigars. I know about food. It's about just trying things. What thing do you like about this particular whiskey or this bourbon you're going to try?
Yeah.
What do you like about it? Go to that shop, like you were saying, that you can consult with and say, I've done this and this. I like this and this out of it. Where else can I go?
Yeah.
But
do you like sweeter? Like, do you like sweeter notes? Oh, here's a lower proof wheated bourbon.
Yeah.
There's different ways you can do it. So figure out, I think, what you enjoy, and in other realms of what you consume, and then go from there. But find a shop like Carfagnas or walk in, ask questions, because sometimes even if you walk in Ohio, it's all like Ohio liquor agencies.
If
so
you don't ask questions,
sometimes they're not really into bourbons and stuff like that. which is fine. But, go to different spots and ask some questions and see who's going to help you, and maybe start lower proof, but don't go bottom shelf all the time. Don't just buy the $12 bottle and be like, oh, I don't want to invest too much, but also don't go like, oh, I've heard this is really good and it's very expensive. Same thing with cigars. Don't go in there and be like, oh, I've heard of this brand. It's a $30 cigar, so that's got to be good. It's like, hang on a second. Let's dial it back real quick.
Yeah, I'm the biggest bourbon guy on staff at the store. Then there's people that are more wine heavy. I'm the most knowledgeable cigar person. That's why I run the humidor there.
Sure.
But yeah, if you got a question on bourbons, I'd be the guy to go to at the store. Scotches would be my boss. He's more of a Scotch guy. He doesn't like the sweetness that a lot of bourbons do.
He might probably get along pretty well then.
Yeah.
I'm more a Scotch guy than a bourbon guy.
I started as a Scotch guy and then went to bourbon.
Did you? Well,
yeah.
Some people like electric lawnmowers too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're a guest of their house. That's weird.
And I think they're great. They have the application.
Sure,
for
you
everybody.
do.
They really do.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Moving on. Here's a fun. We've kind of done this, but not with you guys.
If I could, just real quick.
Sure, you're going to cut on the electric lawnmowers again. Go ahead.
One thing you mentioned is
gas prices.
ask the questions.
It's really easy. I mean,
ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of people, like when you see in the cigar shop, you both have guys come in. Hey, how can I have a pick that one out? And they go, oh no, I'm good. I'm just gonna look. It's almost like they nut up. They don't want to ask questions. They feel like they're embarrassed that they don't know. You don't know. Ask. These guys at a shop that you trust going in to see you, you're gonna go, well, let me help you guide down this primrose path and find that right one for you. Don't be embarrassed or feel like you can't ask the questions. Ask them in cigars, ask them in whiskeys and bourbons or whatever. Most of the time they're there to help you.
and also don't act like you know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about and you just go in there acting like you don't do that, because you don't need to impress anyone when you go into a store. When you're trying to like buy something or whatever it might be, like you don't need to act like you know what you're talking about. There's like, leave the ego at the door. If the person that's trying to help you out has an ego and talks down to you, go somewhere else.
Yep.
I'll tell you that right now. Go somewhere else, because that's not where you want to learn. You know, you don't want to learn from someone that's talking down to you about something that you're trying to get into.
And when you're going in, you're not trying to impress anybody. You're just trying to find the right down this hobby. Yeah. You're trying to find what's right for you.
I guess anything really. I mean, like you go in there, like, you know, Kyle's asking that, and you go in there and you ask the question you just asked, and you're like, you know, I'm just getting used to the burn. And it's like, if the response is, well, here's some whipped cream vodka for you, it's like, all right, walk around, like just turn around and walk out. Go somewhere else. Be like, you know, fuck off, man. You know, that's all you got to do. Go somewhere else. Someone will treat you right.
Yep.
There's never a good outcome if someone's talking down to you, I think.
But sorry, didn't interrupt.
No, it's fine. Here's one. We kind of talked about it a little bit with a comment, but with you guys on here, Shannon asks, if you could be reborn whenever and where, what would it be and why?
Oh, did she edit that? I thought she just said wherever.
She says, whenever, where would it be and why? If you could be reborn whenever, where would it be and why?
Ooh.
Silence. Anyone?
Well, I'm thinking.
It's not. There's no right answer here. Charlie, now? I mean, you're good. Past, future? What are you thinking? He grabs the whiskey glass. It's a classic move. Classic move.
That is not the Dino Tripodi's power.
Let me hang on a second.
That's right. Silence is great for podcasts.
What? Yeah. Dead air. What about you?
I was thinking about it when
you've read this question before us, so
yeah,
you got time to think about it.
Because when I look at hers, it just says wherever, not when. So if I was going wherever.
Oh, okay. Where? Yeah.
Somewhere more like where my dad's family comes from, in Eastern Kentucky. Not necessarily in that small of an area, or honestly that poor of an area.
Yeah.
That area has been devastated by governmental policies over the last 20 years that has just turned neighboring areas into just ghost towns now. But it's more because of more the simplistic lifestyle, because most people, for younger people now, 60% of them live within 10 miles of where they grew up.
Right.
80% live within 100 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
I find a lot of people move away and come back.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
that bell curve.
yeah, I mean, I grew up on the south side of Columbus, and I live in the northwest side now. I mean, I'm half-hour car ride from the house I grew up in. All my family is, for the most part, most of my family is within half-hour driving distance from me. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten kind of tired of some of the aspects of city life. And I wish I could go into, out in the country a little bit, still be accessible to the city if I needed to, but I'm not saying, move away to like North Dakota, or, Northern Montana and, be completely isolated.
Hey, they made a whole show series about that.
What?
Yeah, I think it's gone well for me.
Yeah. I've been tuning in.
But no, it's more, just different type of laid back lifestyle that you can get. You don't have, when I go visit, family down there for family reunions, which I haven't been able to for several years now. But it's a completely different lifestyle that they live down there. They're not, the younger ones are, the social media stuff and everything, but the older adults, like their parents and stuff. I mean, they're
like how he said older adults.
The older, yeah.
Well, compared to the kids.
He looked at you guys.
Right.
Did you notice
That's
that?
true. That's true. I honestly have to say, where I grew up, I don't think I've traded where I grew up.
Where's that?
In the Ohio Valley.
Okay.
So Bel Air, Ohio, the all-American town. And I think because it made me the person I am today.
No pride there.
You know what?
There's no pride there.
There's a lot of pride there.
Yes. That's what I was going with.
Yeah. That's a thing. I mean, it helped me in everything, in sports, being an athlete in college and everything.
Sure.
It helped me. But to your point about like being there now, it's that sometimes when I drive through there, I go see my dad, I say, sometimes it's just simple here, but I live far enough away, which I can be there in 2 hours in Northeast Ohio. But sometimes I feel like when you're in areas like Appalachia and Eastern Ohio, Eastern Kentucky, I mean, it's all the same kind of area. I feel like sometimes I'm driving through those areas thinking, where do they grocery shop? Where's the hospital?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those are things to me that
Does Amazon deliver here?
Yeah.
Amazon delivers everywhere.
Yeah, the town my dad's family is from completely changed 10 years ago when they got a Walmart.
Yeah.
I mean, because there was nothing. You had to drive 30 minutes north to Ashland, to go to a store or something like that, and then all of a sudden Walmart goes in.
Right.
All of a sudden you start having little restaurants and little shops pop up around it, and hotels pop up.
Where Prestonsburg, Louisa, that
Louisa.
area? Yeah, nice.
I grew up in a small town, about 3,000 people, and we got our first stoplight. That was a game changer for town. We didn't know what to do. I mean, it was literally farm trucks with cattle were running this damn stoplight.
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell is this here for?
Yeah, I went to college in Northwest Ohio, and my university had 1,200 students when I graduated. And if you include the university in the town's population, you were looking at about 4,500 people.
Where was that?
Bluffton.
Nice, Bluffton. My daughter goes to Tiffin.
And my wife's from Van Buren, so I think that one's less than 3,000
Should we
people.
swap seats?
It's getting kind of serious. Turn down one of the lights here. Yeah. For me, I mean, I was born actually. So my family moved around right as I was born, right? So my brother was born in the Chicago suburbs in 78. And then my dad took a job. They moved to New Jersey. And that's when I was born. And then between ages being born and 3 years old, basically we moved from New Jersey up to Michigan, back to Jersey, and then back to Chicago, all for job stuff, right? So, I mean, being born, I think being raised is for me a better question because I have no identity with, New Jersey, even Michigan at all, really. So, and then 3 to 7, 8 years old, I was in Chicago. All my family roots are in Chicago, right? In the suburbs, not the city, but the suburbs. And so for me, it's totally different than the rest of you guys It's a tough question. If you could pick where you wanted to be born or whatever, or raised, I really don't know much different. I mean, I
Was it where we were raised or where we'd want to live now?
I thought it was if you could be reborn wherever, where would it be and why?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I gave you my answer.
I think it was raised. I think it's the same thing, right? I mean, you guys sound like, you're born and raised, right?
Right.
That was for me, it was moving around. Like, I was suburbs of Chicago. And then when I was, 8 years old, it was suburbs of here. And I went to college, moved back and different reasons for all that. But it's tough, to Charlie's point, it's tough to really kind of consider like, yeah, there's maybe a wish list. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I was, born and raised more in the country and learning different aspects of that. But I mean, in today's world, I'll say is that I think there's value coming from a lot of different aspects where you could be born, but it's about what you get out of it. So, I mean, as a kid growing up, yeah, I didn't have, I started working, but it was more like office jobs, be considered like almost an intern at like, 14, 15 years old. It wasn't like I was, working hard. When I was in college, that's when I went into
14.
Yeah, like helping out.
So long.
There you go. I also started moving furniture when I was 19. So you go from, doing the suburban, middle class lifestyle. Well, my college job was moving furniture. And I don't care what anyone says. If you haven't moved furniture for money, that's one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have.
That's where the swelling happened.
I was in much better shape than at 19 moving furniture. And I was only about 155 pounds and could lift everything. It was great. But I think it's a lot of that it's more like, for this question, if I could be reborn wherever, where would it be? And then Kristen actually followed up with whenever. That's what I was reading, both of those. The wherever, I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool. I think Ray's still listening. Absolutely. I love the fact I was born in this country. I think it was, I was a sociology major, and I had a professor that they literally like stopped class one time. And he's like, I just want to congratulate all you guys for picking the right parents to be born. Most of you are, if not all of you, are from middle up class, suburban life, city life. Things are going well for your family and you were born in that family. That was a good choice. You guys could have been, you chose to be born in like a third world country and maybe not have made it to 5 years old, if not like 2 years old. And I mean, that comment stuck with me up until this day because it was one of those things that people don't think about. They think about like, oh, my upbringing was better or worse because of this and all this stuff. And it's like, when you think about it, it's like, you don't choose your parents. So I think, if you have a good upbringing, bad upbringing, whatever it might be, I think there's value that can be taken from any of those sides of it. Yeah. And that's where it's like, that's a tough question.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would be, if I could choose where I lived and where I was raised, I don't think I'd want to change anything from where I was at. A small town really enveloped the sense of community because there are 3,000 people in a town that's agricultural driven with a little bit of commercial on the inside. It was mostly you had to rely on everybody else. I mean,
sure.
My wrestling coach, I had to go out and pick cherries during cherry season. I had to go cut asparagus. I had to do we were pulled out of school to go help in the farms. Go
pluck some hay bales.
Oh God, don't bring me that up. That's bad memories.
That's worse than furniture, Steve.
Oh yes, it is.
During football season,
I would love for you to work one of those summers I worked.
Yeah, in Bel Air,
70 hours a week
during football season in Bel Air, man.
Enjoy.
Everyone said last person out of town, turn our lights out. That's right. I mean, it's just that's.
But they're working dairies, 5:30 a.m., 5:30 p.m., 365 days a year.
Sure.
There's a lot to be said about those farmers and like these shows, the Yellowstone and stuff that's been coming out. It really tells a story of what those are no shit.
Yeah.
True to nature. Shit they go through. That's farm life, right? Every day, just they glorify it for TV because he's rich and all that. But it's still a problem. The same happens. But that's who made me who I am today. So would I want to change that? I don't think so. Yeah. I'm happy with who I am. I believe I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Could I improve? I think we all can see room for improvement in our own life, but I think you're who you are and where you are because you're what's gone into your mind And that's part of your upbringing is what's gone into your mind. If you want to change it, to go back to her point, when I want to change where I'm at, you can stop right now at this point in time and move forward by changing what goes into your mind on how
Absolutely.
you are and who you are.
That's a good point.
So,
yeah, I think it's, again, the where and the like. All I go back to what I said, where it's like it's your upbringing more than anything. You can be born in a small town, you can be born in a big city. It's your surrounding people, it's your family or the people that were important to you. It's like I'm not religious anymore, but it's one of those things. I was raised in the church. I learned a lot of those values that I still hold true today, even though I'm not practicing or religious. That was a very valuable part of my upbringing. And that was in the suburbs. It was talk about community. I had the church community. I had, school, I had sports, even the neighborhood. When we moved here, my yard was where all the neighborhood kids came and we played football. We played, wiffle ball, we hit baseballs until we couldn't hit baseballs anymore because we damaged houses, that type of suburban upbringing. But I had that sense of community in a different atmosphere, I guess, is what it was. And when I say, like, I started working when I was 14 and you're like, what took you so long? Absolutely. I mean, I was still doing chores and stuff like that. Not the same, but I don't think there's a greater or lesser part of that if your parents or the people around you tried to instill in you like the work aspect of it,
100%.
The one thing I'll say is that, like my dad was not very handy, he was more the business type. And so I don't have some of those traits, if you will, as a grown up, as an adult, where I wasn't doing that when I was 5 years old. Like a lot of my friends, I have friends growing up that it's like, in high school and stuff like that, they worked on cars, they did all that stuff. It's like, we didn't do that stuff. It's like your car was broken, you take it to the mechanic, It was like, but it's like that. I don't look down on or up towards like any of the better or worse. It's like, if you're a good person, you're a good person.
Yeah.
And everyone's got different skills, in my opinion.
Oh, there are tons of skill sets that there's things that I wish I'd have learned if I grew up in a small town and now living in South Florida. I wish I learned how to, screw people out of things. So I was more prepared when I moved down there.
There you go.
That's
We all have regrets,
costing me a ton of money to learn this lesson. And it's not one I learned, but I don't know woodworking. Never learned it. Never learned how to fix things in houses. I just took the opportunity and says, there's a lot of people that do it. And I am not that special enough to really screw it up that bad. I'm just going to try it. So I just got into it. Now I've built furniture. I've refurnished antiques. I love antique refinishing. So sometimes it takes how do I do this? And just thinking about it, think it through, look it up. I mean, there's got to be a 7-year-old on YouTube that'll tell you how to do it. Yeah, that's how I learned Excel. It's a freaking 7-year-old.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there actually is a guy that has a YouTube channel. He grew up without a father, and so what he does is his whole YouTube channel is teaching boys, like, here's how you tie a tie. Here's how you
that's awesome.
All his videos are like, here's how you do all these little things, because I never had someone teach me how to do it. I had to figure it out as an adult. So I'm going to put a bunch of videos of how to do these different things.
Does he have to say teach a boy to be a man, or is it to be
Here we go.
lessons in life that you can?
There's probably some of those in there.
I'm sure there's some.
Go ahead, Nate, with the next one. You pick one.
Oh shit.
The fourth one.
And he probably just says, here's how you tie a tie.
All right. Fourth one was mine, but it was actually spun off of a comment from last week that we didn't get to.
Okay.
With so many means of communication, how is it that we have less meaningful conversations? And how is it so easy to misunderstand communication?
These meat hooks cannot type worth a shit. And the thought that's in
I
my
wonder
mind,
why you're pointing at your thumbs.
But the typing it on a freaking phone. Everybody's texting nowadays. For
Pick
me,
up the phone.
I'm like, pick up a phone and call me.
That's it.
Or let's hold.
How about for the younger crowd?
Remember that's when they had to talk?
Pick up the phone.
I know.
Pick up the
What
phone.
goes through my mind and can come out my mouth is a lot faster than what my fingers can type, and I forget halfway what I was. Shit.
It's amazing, though, you say that, but the opposite, I think, is true for a lot of people. They can text or be more than they can articulate what they want to say.
Okay.
I think these days, I mean, it's easier to send a text for a lot of people and get what they want to say out, to that person without them in front of them or on the phone. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think that is a lot easier for a lot of people. It's that keyboard warrior type
Yeah, it
thing.
is.
But I
That's
don't
right.
understand what LOL,
You do know
eggplant,
that.
eggplant, donut means.
I feel like you
don't
chose.
know.
I think you chose some things that you do understand what they mean.
Do they? I have no clue.
You don't know what LOL means.
I do know that one.
All right, eggplant.
Pretty sure
I feel like you know that one too.
Pretty sure you know that.
The freaking thing I don't like to eat.
You brought it up. I'm just calling you out.
I-
I think you know.
Why
He
serves
uses
that
it all
one?
the time. I don't know. He just doesn't.
Yeah, don't use that in work threads.
Some of these acronyms just go so freaking fast. I can't keep up with them.
Sure.
Personally.
Sure.
Even in work like stuff with work, I get text. We got text. We got Teams messaging. We got
Mhm.
Slack. We got email. I'm like, what did you send it to me on?
Yeah.
Which one? Pick one.
Yeah.
Send it to me in an email or send it to me. Pick one notification device.
Yeah.
And it's coming from an old guy. I'm the oldest one here. Pick one. Don't this communication thing with like 16 different ways of getting in. No.
Oh yeah,
Mm-mm.
my
I'm
12-year-old.
confused.
Well, my
I
12-year-old.
can see that.
She sits in the same room with her friend, and they don't talk.
They text.
But
back
they're
and
texting
forth.
each other.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Imagine that.
I do. Yeah. No, that's
Us
definitely.
us old guys, I guess.
Somebody was sitting texting me right next to me, and they typed LOL.
Like I didn't hear you laugh.
I didn't hear a damn fucking thing.
But like,
Laughing out loud.
but like when what I took from that, like I said, someone else had commented about that, or I think I may have made a comment, and Ray was like, "Ooh, that's a whole nother message in and of itself." So that's why I jotted it down in my notes.
Yeah.
To bring up. But I mean, when you have conversations going back and forth in text, like they're very quick, short answers, one-word answers, or you get the letter K.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Oh, that's another
Um,
conversation
But
altogether.
it's like because we have the ability to communicate with people anytime we want, the conversations are very short and there's not a lot of meat to the conversations. Growing up, when you had when the only phone in the house was the one on the kitchen wall, that you only had like a 5-foot
That's
cord.
right.
You
Oh,
didn't.
you
right.
kidding?
You didn't have the
Man, you
fancy
stretched that
voice
some
box.
bitch. That 5 became 9, really. Yeah.
And then it
Because you wanted that
All
private conversation.
Yeah. But like when you were a kid and you called someone from your landline and they picked up, whoever you were calling picked up on the other end, you never had to ask, "Hey, where are you?"
Mhm.
No, you knew exactly
You knew
where
where
they
they
were
were.
because it was attached to their kitchen. But you kind of took advantage of that time, like, "Hey, while I got you," and you're sitting there having 30-minute, hour-long conversations with someone. Nowadays, I mean, after 5 minutes, people are like, "All right, will you please just shut up? Can we end this conversation? Can I hang up the phone now?"
It's not a good
But
conversation then.
On the flip side,
Okay.
there's the video messaging or the video calling, you can
FaceTime.
do, the FaceTiming and the Zooming and all that. I think that's done great for like people that want to work away from each other can still video call. I can still video call my daughter, and I do it regularly.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm having a conversation with her, but I'm just doing it in front of a screen. I'm still sitting back and I'm just having a conversation.
Sure.
But I can see body language, and
Yes.
I'm a big one for looking at body language and the way you're slumped like this and you say something versus like your shoulder back and you say something. You can say it in the exact same tone in a text, but you say it in video, it can mean a lot different.
Well,
right?
that's
So-
why I had the second part of my question up there is because I've had so many times in my previous career where I would send something, in a messenger app or whatever, and the other person would take it completely the wrong way.
Mhm.
So
And that's more because like what they had going on, like they weren't in the right mindset. Like, no, I wasn't asking that to be a dick. Like I was saying this more in a humorous way,
Yeah.
or
Right.
this is what I meant behind it. But because we weren't actually having a conversation, you couldn't hear the inflection in my voice or my tone. You chose to take it in a manner in which I did not mean it. And then
But are we wasting a lot of time by having to explain that back and forth because you're messaging or texting or and you don't know what the other person's thinking? Where that social looking at somebody else comes in for me.
I think being in person it's the best because the body language, the eye contact, the just everything. But that's what Shannon was saying with this one is that what you were just saying, Nate. I think you can be a good communicator, but if you're communicating with someone that doesn't comprehend, that can be an issue, whether it's in text, in person. And then she had a follow-up that, it can be something that, if they don't comprehend, it can make you feel like a bad communicator. I look at that as, if you're trying to get something across, especially something important or business side, personal, whatever it is, there is a bit of the salesman mentality. I'll say this, and I point at Charlie because that's his profession. There's a bit about knowing your audience. I think there's a bit about, knowing how the other person communicates, or at least learning how the other person communicates. Everyone has different learning styles. You learn that as you're growing older, or sometimes a little bit too late, that you're more of a visual learner versus an audio learner, that type of a thing. I think that translates a lot to communication as we grow older as well. Different generations, texting. I remember when it was just, you went from the long distance phone calls or the phone, and then all of a sudden, before texting, before even T9 texting, it's like before even cell phones, it was like now you had email, right? And so business and otherwise long distance type of communication became through writing. This is going back from even just the old school snail mail, right? Like having pen pals or whatever. You don't necessarily, like, if you write a letter to someone, they read it, they read it wrong, the tone, whatever. Maybe you made you said something incorrectly that you didn't even mean that way. Now, back in the day, it was like, now there's weeks that go by possibly that there's all these emotions coming in, but you can't reach that person. Then it was phone. Then it was email. It's easier to sit down. It's exciting new technology. Then you fast forward to all the stuff you're talking about, even texting, the Teams, the messaging, all this stuff. It's that now it's this whole thing, like with texting, like on an iPhone or on a messenger, if you're on the corporate side of things, where it's like the ... that someone's typing. You wrote something and you're like, oh, everything's cool. And they write back something, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, where are they getting that from? I feel like you have to sometimes learn how the other person communicates. And you have to come outside of your comfort zone sometimes. If you're saying pick up the phone, we had Ryan, who's now with Royale, but I remember joking around with him where he was texting and all this stuff. I was like, there's a phone app on your phone. You know what I mean? Because like that little button with the phone picture, you can actually hit that and then hit my name, and then all of a sudden my phone rings.
You're talking to
like this. It's a cell phone.
For those who don't know that root of that word, phone.
But I look at it as that not everyone communicates the same way. So I think that's part of it. Like the question that you put on there, Nate, was the fact that it's like you can communicate. It's not always, I feel like, the stereotype of people just don't communicate well. It's that they're communicating at their convenience sometimes, and they're not, if they're not in front of that person, you're not giving that person 100% of what you're trying to get across. And not every conversation has to be serious, but I'm just saying, it's like, even a casual conversation, if we're talking like we are right now, and I pick up my phone and I start texting, I'm looking at you, looking down, looking at you, looking down. It's multitasking. There's too many options, I think, anymore. I think Travis made that point of, like on the corporate side of it, it's like, if you have like 3 email addresses and 3 Facebook pages and 3 Instagram pages, and you have the Teams, you have the Microsoft Outlook. Is that still a thing, Microsoft Outlook? I've been out of the corporate world for a while now. But it's like, I remember back when I was in the corporate world, and it's like Microsoft Office was a small, medium-sized business. And it was like, I'm like, hey, let's plan. If we have a meeting, we put it on the shared calendar. And they're just like, no, I don't use that part of Outlook. And you're like, but it's really easy. I'll have it throw up on your screen. You're like, yeah, I don't look at that. I'm like, but you could look at it. Like, this is real. Like, it's there. You hit this button. And the communication is just lost because I think there's not the effort. I think sometimes it's pure effort, like with you guys saying
generational.
No, I think sometimes the disconnect is generational, but I also think that it's like, if your kids want to text you, text back, you know what I mean? Like, figure out, like, hey, I'm not used to this. You literally have a conversation about how to communicate. And on the flip side of that, you tell your kids, you tell the younger people, it's like, hey, it works better for me if you actually call me. I don't have a chance to look at all my Teams messages. I don't have a chance to look at all my texts. I got email, I got my personal email, all that stuff. I know some people I deal with, from a business standpoint, they'd rather me email them, and other people in the industry would rather a text. You know what I mean? Because they're looking at the emails are more from their company side. they'd rather just look at the text. They function off of that. It's I think learning how other people communicate with you, then you have to adapt to a point. And also, just like any other form of communication, you have to be able to express how you communicate better. And if they can you can find a middle ground, that's all it takes. It's literally like one conversation.
But at what point do we say there's too much available communication to where we're maybe even communicating via an iDevice or a messaging device or something? It's electronic versus person to person body language, and it's resolved right then and there instead of 3 days of texting to figure out, oh, I didn't mean that, I meant this, and I gotta go through that, and then no, let's get back on track.
I think it's a matter of, I think the phone is a great equalizer, actual calling someone, because no matter what the distance is, at least you have the person live. I think that's probably some of the best technology that we've had. If you want to do FaceTime or video, whatever it is, but I think the pandemic, for example, like when Teams and Zoom and Facebook chat, like all the Facebook rooms, all these big companies, it was all about the business side, the stock side, the money side, is that everyone wanted the best technology to make money off of it. And we're all here on the sidelines being like, oh, well, this client needs, they do, my company does Teams, but this company wants to do Zoom. And then we do StreamYard. It's like, oh, there's all these different, everyone's trying to get like the leading technology. I remember, like I've said on the podcast before, when FaceTime, the iPhone 4 came out, and like we had video chat, but when FaceTime came out and you had Steve Jobs out there, and it's like, and they show this video of like, this husband and wife far away, and they had a deaf child. And you're like, oh my God, the future's here, man. This is amazing. Like, we're the Jetsons. We have it in our hands. Like, we have video chat. And it's like, but if you don't have an iPhone, I can't talk to you. It's like, fuck you, Apple. Like, you did it. You did it. I can't video chat an Android. I get it. But man, that video really is tearjerker as a fucking like keynote speaker trying to sell a goddamn phone. And we're all just like, that's beautiful. That's so sweet. You're just like,
I had to chuckle when you said the Jetsons, because I'm thinking, yeah, we're almost there. Because I can take you ever seen the YouTube videos where they take a glove and cut part of a balloon.
Yeah.
And they cut part of the end of the balloon. They stick it on an exhaust pipe. The noise it makes, that blip, 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 blip. I'm thinking of the Jetsons' little car. Boop, 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 boop.
That wasn't the
I'm
part
like,
of the Jetsons
oh, man,
I was
we are so
referring
close
to, but
to
I
that.
get it. I was talking about more of the future technology and stuff like that. Yeah.
But that's what popped in my head.
No, I believe it.
Sorry.
I believe it.
Thank you for cheering me up and make me chuckle a little.
That was, I just think that
Get that text.
No.
I just think communication is
There's gotta
available.
be an audio button you can press to record yourself.
There actually is.
See, I just haven't found it yet. If you guys want to teach me, it's Travis at.
Nate, do you have another one? I got to pull it back up. My phone here went down here.
We got to go back to the devices.
The devices where I put the topics in, it comes through different ways. Yeah. Yeah. When we were actually on shutdown and we were doing like the videos and stuff to like try to sell cigars, because there were customers that thought that we were essential people, right? Like running a cigar shop. It was, I'd come home and I have messages, I'd have emails, I'd have texts, and I'd spent like 2 or 3 hours an evening trying to get all of these things. And I would just go pen and paper and write it all down, who I need to like get together for the next day. But it was like, I had 4 Instagram accounts, 4 Facebook accounts. I had text, I had email, everything. I had my email, and it was, I don't know, 8-10 different accounts that I have to like go through just to find out who needs what on that stuff. And to your point, it's just, it takes more time, the more options, just to make sure that you're actually touching every avenue to you that is out there. It's amazing.
Before you get to the next one, I had a quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned sports.
Yes.
College.
Yes.
What'd you play?
Track and field and cross country.
Track and field. There's a lot of sports within.
I was a distance runner, middle distance runner.
Yeah. Man, I only run when being chased, and that don't happen. So, God bless you.
Marshall
Cool.
University, go Herd.
Hey, there you go. All right, sorry.
This one's from Mike
Dieter.
What you perceive is what you'll live. Dive into the importance of your perception of the world around you and how that impacts your life both positively and negatively.
Oof.
What?
Well, it was like that, or
No, it's fine. Go with it.
I'll let you guys answer it. I'll follow you guys.
Try to put it up on the screen here. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind when I read that is something that's rookie.
Trying to get it up here. Hang on.
No, it's something that is new probably within the last decade, and it's this idea of victim mentality. Like, I don't think it's been talked about more in our past ever than it has been in the last several years. Mm-hmm. But, just this idea that because of where you're from or what gender you are, what race you are, that you're automatically a victim or a second-class citizen because of that. And then that just becomes your entire mindset and how you go into everything.
Okay.
What you perceive is what you'll live. The perception of the world around you, how does that impact your life, both positively and negatively? I have it up on the screen there. I think that's just like that mentality, right? Mm-hmm. It's your mindset of that. And I think that what you were touching on, Nate, is that, the victim mentality, obviously that will frame your day to day. I think on the surface, people will think that it's like you have to defend yourself. I think you have to really, you have a struggle in front of you, and it's a matter of where you put the importance. Do you put it on yourself that you have to start with you, or do you blame everyone? I think this is something that it's how you look at it. For me, it's like when life seems to be falling apart. First and foremost, you have to take care of the day to day. A lot of times people don't. They get kind of like, they get caught in that quicksand where it's like, it's the things are going bad, or woe is me, or chip on the shoulder, and you look at it as no one has their best interest, and they just start, it's projecting all this shit. There's the other side of it. On the flip side of it, 180, is that you look at it as like things are going poorly, and you start looking inward first, and then you start looking outward, and you don't necessarily let everyone's actions or opinions or comments impact you. It's almost like that you get knocked down type thing. You got to get yourself back up. Mm-hmm. Or do you get knocked down and all you're doing is like, no one's giving me a hand to get back up? I think there's a difference in mentality there, is that what you perceive is what you'll live. I mean, yeah, you can do the whole, what is it? The not the hope board. It's the dream board thing. You heard of? It's like you put all your dreams up there, and then it'll become reality. It's like, it's not going to become reality unless you fucking work for it.
Yeah, right.
You can't just like say like, I want to be a millionaire. It's like, okay, cool. How do you want to become a millionaire?
What's your path?
Yeah, like I want to make money. How do you want to make money? It's that. It's scaling it back. It's going step by step. This is your finish line, the goal, or whatever it might be. All right, so now, how do you get there? You go all the way back, or you say, all right, to get there, I need to get this, and to get that, I need to get this, and you get that, and you get that. I mean, the same thing with relationships. It's like, growing up, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I want to have a girlfriend. It's like, cool, that'd be great. Yeah, I want you to have a girlfriend too. What are you doing to get a girlfriend? I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight. I want to do this. It's like, great. I think those are great goals. Mm-hmm. What are you doing about it? How do you get there? How do you lose weight?
Where's your end goal?
Yeah.
How do you get there? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
You got to plan your bites, right?
Okay.
Shel Silverstein.
I don't know. I don't know who quoted it, but I heard it. I keep it. I use it. I am kind of playing off of what you were saying. There's all these groups, the LGBTQ, the ethnic groups that are around. I have a lot of heart for certain members within a lot of these communities, because they are put under extreme strains, whether physically by themselves, or because of their situation. But there's a lot of people that have been put in that situation. But like you said, it's, where do you want to put yourself? Where do you see yourself on that board? How do I get there? Am I willing to put in that work and that effort? Because the U.S., we're all born here, and we understand, if you don't put in the work, you're going to get exactly what you put into it.
Sure.
Nothing. So if you're willing to put in live that extra 5%, that extra 10% on improving whatever that is, that end goal, I think you can get there. or at least get closer to it.
Mhm.
I did. We were talking earlier that I didn't know woodworking. I didn't know how things need to be fixed around the house. I started just doing little things, picking up little things here and there. Watching the 7-year-old on YouTube, just trying it and saying I'm going to do it. I wanted to get into the cigar business, but I thought, I'm in sales. I was selling food at the time. Opportunity knocked. Did I look the other way, or did I say, I'm going to try it? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Became a salesman. Now I'm an educator. And now, if my English teacher had heard that I am now an educator, graduating high school with a 0.8 GPA, any of my teachers would have went,
0.8? How'd you graduate?
hell no, barely.
They'd be turning over in their graves.
Small town. Got it. Yeah, no, you're going back full circle.
Literally
Small
just
town.
Extracurriculars.
Get me out of school.
Yeah,
but
they didn't want to deal with you. You never got held back.
I was extremely bored through school, to where I knew I could answer every question that was on the test, but I was bored. So I fucked off. I really did. Then I went to college, graduated with 3.8. That proved it. I got out, but I just wanted to continue growing, and that's who I was. But you want to get there, you just have to kind of want it enough to give that extra 10%.
I did the opposite. I was like, school growing up was like more easy for me, so I didn't really learn study skills. So when I got to college, like the first couple of years were very tough. Like college for me was very tough first couple of years, and I had to finally found what I was interested in. I graduated in 4 years. It was great, but it's like, yeah, when it's easy for you, you go both ways. And if it's hard for you, much like you were talking about, like, growing up on the farms and stuff like that, that work ethic is there, and it doesn't always happen to everyone. So it's like with this thing, it's like what you perceive is what you'll live. Yeah, to a point. I just think that it's how do you get there?
But the younger generation is perceiving life as a influencer, right? You hear that big word, influencer. So they're saying, I perceive my life as I want to be that influencer, when it's what, half of 1% that actually make the influencer type of list.
Mm-hmm.
Is that achievable? Is that attainable? Well, you got to really put it in your own perspective. Is it worth that effort and that time and that skill set to do it? Or should I maybe choose another path, look at something else, and not say this is my only goal? And don't forget, there's other things that can turn up that you don't realize. Sure. I didn't know I was going to be in the cigar business. I kind of thought it'd be fun, but heck, I got the opportunity.
Everyone thinks it'd be fun, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it's work.
Yeah.
But it's
it
work.
is fun. By the way, no. Side note, it is fun.
It is. I've been doing it 17 years. If I didn't like it, I'd have gotten out.
It's fun.
But you got to look at opportunities as they go by when you don't realize there's an opportunity there. And I think some people are just so focused on where they want to be because they see other people's doing it. They YouTube and all this stuff. That's where they want to be, and they shut down on everything else. So I think they need to open their eyes up to opportunities.
They'll also see someone who's already done the work and has success, and they're like, I want that, but I want it now. I don't want to go through the years of struggle or all the steps to take. I just want that. I want to be able to, take a pill and, lose 30 pounds, but then put on 20 pounds of muscle. Like, that's not how that works.
Really? I was on Instagram earlier, and I'm telling you what, there's some ads out there.
I was going to say,
I hit shop now. I've got some packages coming.
I've tried them all.
See you guys by Christmas.
I want to see your next blood test.
Yeah, no, you don't. Why is your blood different color? Don't worry about it. Charlie, you were a college athlete, though. I think, and you've been with Altadis now for a little over a year. A lot of people will look at that, that you're working for one of the biggest companies in the industry that you've been in for how many years?
Oh, 20
some years. Now you're with the biggest company.
That's 2 decades for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I said, don't talk down to people. But I think that, looking at that, like what Nate was saying, it's like, oh yeah, it'd be great. Like, I'd love to work for Altadis and stuff like that. But getting there is not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from, like you said, like a smaller town and then you're a college athlete and doing all that stuff. I mean, like with this question, I mean, did this work for you? Just like literally like, I want to get there, so I'm going to live that way. Or did it come with struggles?
No, it came with struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. My whole, your whole professional
Talking
career.
to Mike.
Your whole professional career. I mean, everything. It's just, I look at things like everything came easy to me. I worked hard, but I got through everything. I'm the all-time Ohio Valley record holder in the 1,600 meter run.
No big deal.
Still,
Just brush your
Hell of an
shoulder off
achievement.
there.
It's a hell of an achievement.
Went to school. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college.
Congratulations.
And thanks. And then you do all this stuff. I was a captain for 2 years. We won a championship, conference championship. Then you get out in the real world, and it's not easy.
That stuff doesn't mean shit.
There's a lot of roadblocks. It is. So it's been a long journey.
There's no running blocks in the boardroom.
No.
Next time,
Hurdles. There's
challenge someone to a foot race. Next time they challenge you.
no blocks, but plenty of hurdles.
My wife's company, they used to hold armchair races around their office. They're organized by the company. Like, okay, get your teams together, and it was like a relay race.
See, now, I mean,
That's
talking about from a different perspective. When I read that, I was thinking more like the craziness that is going on in today's world.
Okay.
And I was watching Fox News every night when I was laying in bed until Tucker Carlson got fired. But I was watching it every night. And my wife says, you got to stop, because I don't know how you do that and go to sleep. She goes, you got to stop. So I had to.
Why?
Because
Did it get you worked up?
it does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, I haven't watched
It doesn't matter if
I haven't
you
watched
watch
news in years.
But right. And it's the
Fox
same thing.
News, CNN, or
It
anywhere
does
in
it-
between.
yeah.
It's
It
going
does
to
it
get you
right.
worked up
It
when you
does.
watch that shit.
It does, because whatever your beliefs are, or your thoughts are, obviously you gravitate towards that side. But yeah, I had to basically stop watching it.
I've tried to tell the wife to quit watching the ID channel because I have trouble going to bed at night because I think she's going to kill me.
Because she knows the perfect crime.
Well, she's been planning it. She's watching those things for decades.
No, this is what I. this is how they got caught. This is what I'd have done.
But yeah, you have to then go the Frank Costanza round of
Might
Serenity
cancel your
Now.
insurance.
Serenity Now.
I just put up a Costanza tree in my middle of my living room. Don't get me, honey.
Yeah. Jonathan says, I tell my friend that listens to conservative talk radio all day, it's not great for you. No matter what it is, I think it's not great for you we talk about like the echo chamber thing.
Right.
That's what it is, right? So if you believe a certain way, then all of a sudden it's like you're watching, and again, in America especially, it's like Fox News or CNN or somewhere in between. Well, given enough time, someone on that channel is going to get caught in some sort of scandal. So, it's just, I feel like it's best to try to watch both sides of it. If you're going to actually, dive into the importance of the perception of the world around you. The perception of the world around you is a lot of times what you make it, and what your avenues, your input is. The input, and we've seen it a lot. It's not just this last pandemic, last 4 years, whatever. It's always been that way, right? It's the people, like the small town you grow up in. It's the community. If you are religious, if you are whatever it is, like your input. If you feel a certain way or you're questioning something, the input always will impact you a lot. And I think we saw it amplified in the last 4 or so years, that if you were just listening to people that you thought that's how you believed or what you thought, and that's all you did, that just pushed you further away from other people.
Don't they refer to those as talking heads?
Talking heads. I call it an echo chamber because if you're just listening to what you believe,
Yep.
what are you doing? You're amping yourself up. And then the next time,
No.
it got that simple in this country where it's like literally like, oh, you listen to Fox News, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
There was a
Oh,
time.
you listen to CNN, fuck you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like, everyone's like, it's just that.
Yep.
I said it before. I was trying to do it where I was like on my social media feeds, I followed conservative, I followed liberal, I did all of that stuff just for the simple fact that I knew what I thought I believed, but I saw points on different sides, and you try to like really weed out the dynamic media bullshit, and it's like you make your own opinion. You make your own
Hillbilly
opinion.
diagnostics.
Yeah, you talk to people. Great thing about the cigar shop for those that aren't in the cigar world is that you can literally just, if you can have a conversation with someone that disagrees with you, and this doesn't just the cigar world, but this is a great example. Anytime you have that, don't just go in with blinders.
Yep.
And I think with this is that, with what Mike Dieter was saying is that, how does that impact your life both positively and negatively? I think that's on you. I think that's a responsibility on you. And I think that's a big part about this is that no one fucking takes the responsibility of anyone else's actions, which is fine, but you take responsibility for your own actions and how you respond to theirs. That really is on you. And I think that's something that we are lacking a lot of, is that if you do just go into it with one viewpoint and you're talking at someone, nothing's going to be accomplished. And if they're talking at you, nothing's being accomplished. If you're talking with each other, you're having a conversation, you don't necessarily agree on everything, but you can come out of it and you're like, you know what? I don't agree with that, but that might have been that is a point I didn't think about before.
It's a valid point. You can take that into consideration. I think that's something that's been lost a lot, that there are different viewpoints, and that you don't like a situation. Well, it's probably because they had their viewpoint and that's the way they're just so driven, and you're driven. Well, now you're not. You get out of the I zone and get into the we zone.
Yeah, I like that.
Then you can have a conversation and really come up with
right there. Get out of the I zone,
smiley
get in the
face
we zone.
And the I zone and the we zone.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm sure there's was it 9:14 or 9 or 4? What's it with the weed smoking time?
4:20. Yeah,
it's got to be on a 4:20 t-shirt. I'm sure.
Could be.
Yeah.
I think in Forrest Gump, where it's like shit happens. Really? Yeah. Sometimes. And then the shirt's like shit happens.
But getting out of the just you and get into the we listen to others, don't judge, just listen. And we got 2 years of Money Mouth for a reason. You got to listen to people. You can't just be talking all the time.
Well, Sean Anderson, I will put this up there if I can find it here. Last one. Oh, no. He says, hold on. If it's something you don't agree with, how do you find it a valid point? What do you guys think?
They're going in with a different viewpoint.
Yeah, that's true.
So the way they see it, that's the way they believe, even if you don't agree with it. But you got to at least listen to what they're having to say, understand why they have that viewpoint.
Yep.
And that can maybe steer you and make you grow as an individual to understand both sides to find a resolution. Because if you go one-sided, you're going to cause issues.
Well said.
There's always going to be there are issues along the road. But if you listen, then you can get around. I mean, water's always going to find the path out.
I like that too. Yeah.
If you hit a wall, you're going to cause a dam. That's not good. You want the water to flow.
Yeah, I think that, with that, it goes into everything we talked about already tonight with the communication side of it. It's like, you may not agree with it. You may not find it being, you don't agree with their point, but if they have, it's any other like philosophical debate, right? It's who debates better, right? And what the reason is. And I think that some of this stuff is that when you come down to it, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I understand why you're saying it. That's the valid point. It's not that you agree with it, but it's like, I understand why you're saying that. And you may not always do that. You may not always like have that epiphany. I'm not saying that when you go into like a political, religious, whatever it is, things you don't talk about typically, but everyone talks about, is that if you go into it and you're trying to prove your point, it's not going to be proven. If you have a conversation with someone and it is kind of like sales a little bit. It's like, you don't want to buy from me, but I'm going to keep selling you. It's like, no, you're going to walk out of there with no sale. And the person could be pissed that you just pushed, right? That's what happens in these conversations. I feel like it's if you have a conversation, you're like, oh, like you're not at that point right now. It's sales is a great, I feel like, equalizer type thing where it's like, it's like, oh, you're not in the point, and I'm not trying to win you over, but I just want to understand where you're coming from and why you're not buying from me. Okay, so I see where you're coming from. Like you don't have the space, you don't have the cash flow right now. What would it take for, me to get into that position that I'm trying to get into? Oh, time, money, whatever it might be. It's like, okay, I get what you're saying. That's the valid point. It's not that I agree with it. You absolutely, I know you can squeeze out a few more dollars to buy a little bit of product, but I'm not going to push that. I'm listening to you and that's a valid point. I get it.
We are going to work together to grow.
Absolutely.
That's it. I mean, I have a neighbor that has an electric lawnmower, and I understand why
he's super happy with it. He probably gave like a 5-star review.
He loves it, and I understand. And I was jealous of him one night. I'm not going to lie.
I don't think they're lithium batteries. I think they're probably carbon based.
He was mowing his yard past dusk, where I would have had to stop.
Super quiet, right?
And you heard him?
Well, I could hear him because you hear that thing. But
sounds like
it was because he had headlights. He had headlights on the damn thing.
No,
I'm
that
like,
would drain the battery too much.
oh,
I didn't get
not
that
gonna
model.
happen in my world. So I needed to do it at dusk. I took a flashlight. I'm like, but I was jealous. But I understand why he gets it. And I don't pick on him about it.
And yet, when you showed up here, you still made a comment because you just wanted to communicate.
I just asked. You took it negatively. It was miscommunication.
Not at all.
It was
Not
the
at all.
text. You didn't understand where I was coming from.
We were in person, but that's fine.
I'm kidding. Yeah,
it is dark, but if you want to take it for a spin around
what did I say when we were walking up?
Yep,
What did I say when we were walking up?
he did.
We got about 45 minutes. I wonder if you let me mow his yard.
Yeah, I know the front's a little long. I can't get out. The back's better. I just did that the other day because I had time.
But I come from a small town community of agriculture, so for me, my yard is like my little
Sanctuary.
I love
understand
firing up a stick, fire the cigar up, or fire my mower up. One pull, by the way.
Yeah, you just got a button to press. Yeah, it's great.
You don't have to charge nothing, but I do have to fill it. So see, there's equal.
Absolutely. I don't have to drive to a gas station.
But I bet you that
really
would mow that grass really well because I deal with that other kind of grass down in South Florida. It's like trying to chop a tree.
My neighbor actually treats the lawn. He does a lawn service. It's great.
Yeah.
Community right there.
That is community. And that's something
shout out to Kevin. He listens.
But did you guys feel that the community that we grew up with, where you said you guys are playing ball in your front yard and where that communal effort in a community, within a living area has kind of gone away. I know in South Florida, if it wasn't for me, I don't think any of my neighbors would know who the hell they were. But it took somebody from the West who grew up in that environment where we all knew each other. And it took me pulling all these people out. Now we all talk and shit, go swimming together and have barbecues out in the cul-de-sac. And,
you are the social glue.
Well, but
social director.
I feel that over the last 40 or 4 decades that I've just seen this tiering of the me's and just stay inside and just live in my hubble and I don't want to do anything, and to where there used to be a community thing and even parents would get together and be social and have fun. Do you think that's a thing that's being missed? So,
Nate, do you have anything on that?
No, I thought I was directing that question to you. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's to the table and the viewers. No, I've talked about it on the show before. I feel very fortunate, growing up in another suburb not too far from here, right, Westerville, and doing all that stuff growing up. It was a newer subdivision, so a lot of the people moving in, this is 1987, so a lot of people moving in were doing the family thing, right? Because Westerville was growing and there were a lot of jobs and all that stuff. So you see a lot of that. There were a lot of kids that were either my brothers and my age or a little bit older, a little younger. So we had the original owners of that subdivision that everyone was moving in. And it was a great subdivision. Again, suburban life. I feel very fortunate to be a part of that. So we had that. Now, I know my mom still lives in that house now, and it's been turned over, obviously, how many times in the last, 30, almost 40 years now, right? So it's changed, but where I'm at now here, it's what you what you did. You put yourself out there, right? You wave. I will say that the lockdown, we had a podcast with Michael Herklotz from Ferry Otego, and at the time he was with Nat Sherman, and he was saying, we had him remotely, and he was saying there's a lot of these front porch friends now that people were basically in their homes, not doing their day-to-day stuff, and all of a sudden you have new waves. You say hi, you start introducing each other, social distancing. A lot of people backed away from the best practices, as I said. But one thing that I appreciate is, so for example, like with my dog and my work schedule and everything else, is that across the street, Kylie and Ben, they have a key to my house. Matt and Abby have a key to my house. On my old street that I lived in this neighborhood, the Faulkners, they have a key to my house. They can let my dog out if I need them to. We go to concerts with friends in the neighborhood. We have them over to the house for like what we call like a neighborhood happy hour sometimes. There's a text thread going together. We do a fantasy football together. Yes, it has, I think, lacked a lot of times, but the fact that we're doing what we're doing, we're getting that benefit of the community. So like Matt and Abby just had a child and they're turning 1. Brock's turning 1. and they're having a birthday party. Well, we were invited on Saturday. I work open to close. I can't get there. Chris and my girlfriend. So we got them presents and stuff like that, but we were invited to that. I think there could be a resurgence of some of that if there's some effort. It's always the effort there, and what you're doing with your neighborhood, there's effort there. As you get older, it's one of those things. You lose your friends, and we've talked about this a lot. You lose your friends that you grew up with, went to college with, or you worked with, whatever it is, and now it's your kids' friends, parents that you're friends with,
Right.
because of sports, because of this, and it's like, oh, you like cigars, I like cigars. Oh, you drink bourbon, I drink bourbon. It's like all these common hobbies that used to be before all the technology and everything. It was because you lived in the same neighborhood. There's still the availability there. I think that if you get to know your neighbors, they'll get to know you. And I'm not saying it's you leave your door unlocked everywhere in this country or the world.
No.
But I've trusted people. I think in this neighborhood, there's probably 5 house keys to my house in this neighborhood, which I think is very uncommon. I'm not saying that.
No, because I got 5 in mine that have keys to my
That's
house.
great, though.
My garage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was really nervous moving into that house almost 8 years ago that, I'm wearing cowboy boots, shorts, sleeveless t-shirt, and a cowboy hat, mowing his yard.
Certain people want to know you. There's other certain people that don't want to know you.
I was afraid they were all going to be scared of me. I'm like, these guys are never going to talk to me.
If you had a gun on your holster.
I feel like that was intentional. Like,
But it is Florida.
I'm going to make myself appear so crazy. No one's going to want to talk to me.
But you got to put it in perspective. I live in Boca Raton.
Oh, Jesus.
Nobody knows how to do anything for themselves. I mean, there are the exceptions, but for the most part, most people don't know how to do anything. So all of a sudden, I've got the most beautiful yard in the cul-de-sac or in the area, in the whole area around me. And, people are like, they'll stop and they'll talk, and which is, I think is fun because I'm so outside the box for Boca.
Sure.
And now there's people who will actually stop and talk to me and stuff. I just think it's neat to see that people are still willing to do that, but it's that extra effort that
it is.
Sometimes they need to get that little push.
I think it goes back to if you put yourself out there, that's the first step. I think that there's a lot, and I think, Charlie, you walk into a lot of, like, with your job, like with the shop, and not take away. I mean, you probably have some experiences with home life, but it's, you walk into any situation and you don't put yourself out there, you don't get anything back.
Yeah.
You could ask them about unexpected things that you didn't think were going to jump into your hot tub.
Ask him. There's a hot tub story.
Well, that was last night.
So last night.
So Travis was in your hot tub.
Yeah.
Wearing just a cowboy hat.
Oh my.
So we've had
cheers, guys. Happy whiskey.
Yeah, we had our hot tub for a week
Mm-hmm.
on Saturday, and I go out of town last night. My wife has our two neighbors. So the ladies.
I don't know where the story's going.
The ladies.
I'm intrigued.
Wait, there's more.
So the ladies are getting into the hot tub.
Oh,
late night on the Bourbon BS podcast.
And we have 2 dogs, and our dogs they're Labradoodles.
Great dogs.
The one dog apparently steps up on the steps, and she just kind of hangs there. And our neighbor was getting in, and my wife said we had an extra person in the hot tub last night because the dog just went right in the hot tub.
You can tell there's a definite lab influence on that side.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Any water, for sure.
Water, it's 101. I don't care. I got a coat of fur on.
I didn't know where that story was going, but I'm glad it went there.
It could have taken,
for your sake.
It could have taken a bad turn.
It could have taken a bad turn.
But that kept you all listening. Like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, Steve, we turned off the main light. We just had that one.
No, I'm not doing it.
BS after dark.
Not doing
where's
it.
that music at? Down.
Facebook would eliminate our account.
The stick lighting that's in a roll, and you can make it green or red.
Oh, the LEDs.
Not doing it. We're going to keep with this lighting here.
Yeah, well, fun.
Any other topics? We're going to round it out. One more for closing remarks here. Let's let these guys go.
Was there somebody named Stacy on it? Another question.
Jonathan Aaron says, I saw this movie. Perfect.
All right. I was a little nervous about bringing up some of Sean's because, Sean's dealt with some shit.
You're going to go deep on the last one here. This is the last one. All right.
How to learn to love your scars, especially since they stay with you longer than most people.
Oof.
Wow. I don't know where Sean lives, but boy, I hope you want to become a
Tennessee.
customer. There's a great store here
That's
that will ship because apparently he's got a lot of cigars.
So Sean actually came up. He was part of the Bourbon and BS community page that we have on Facebook. And so like Sean came up from Tennessee. Bobby Hirschman, I don't know if you know that name. Bobby Hirschman lives in Philly. We had Ray Cheshire, who was in Vietnam. Everyone, like when we had our first Smoking 10 event, after all the lockdowns and everything like that, it was not this last year, the year before that, they all came to Columbus for the event because of this community that we built on this podcast. And Sean was one of those people.
I use a full gas.
yeah.
Does anyone want to answer that?
Well, I think you're holding just from the brief on the question, how I take it there again, the communication part, maybe I'm just taking it wrong. But if you're holding on to them too long and not being communal about it and inviting the community, then the people don't stick around, right?
That's a good point.
Cigars are very social. And even if people don't love cigars, I got a lot of friends that don't like cigars, but they like the passion that I have behind it.
Mhm.
And that just is infectious to the point to where they want to hang out because they want to know more about this great hobby that you love, even though they'll never smoke a cigar. But it's just, it creates that fun community within the cigars. So I would say invite more friends over and send me an address. If I'm in town, I'll pop over. We'll have a cigar together. So
I think you may have misheard. Learn to love your scars, not cigars.
Oh, scars. I thought you said cigars. I'm like, no.
I thought you were just trying to make light of it.
Yeah.
honestly.
No,
I thought,
then I misheard the question.
Learn
I
to
might-
love your scars, especially since your scars.
Well, that's a little deeper.
yes.
I got a lot of those. I got a lot of those, my friend.
Yeah. So Sean was a military vet.
Okay.
He was in, I think, for about 20 years. He was in Afghanistan. Made the choice to turn the wrong direction on the Humvee. And then was police for 10 years and then retired due to just sustained physical injuries from both careers.
Okay.
A lot of scars there.
He's got a lot of scars.
Yeah.
But how do you learn to love your scars, especially since they will stay with you longer than most people?
That's true, right? They're with you, and that's true. They're with you until, I guess, forever. Hey, embrace them. Right? You embrace people.
Well, I think
Chicks love scars, man.
Hey,
I think
Varsity Blues. I learned that from Johnny Moxon.
I think for Sean, just some of the conversations that we've had with him and hearing his story when he was on a couple years back, like all those scars that he has tell stories, and most of them are not positive whatsoever. And he spends a lot of nights staying up where he can't sleep, and he'll sit there and pound an entire bottle like this, and it won't even faze him. And just because he always has those memories of those people, and
He's asking you though.
in the last couple of years, like he's lost people since then.
yeah, find a good group of friends and talk about things. Talk about positive.
Here's his own answer, and then we can answer this and we can round it out. But what I've learned is you can wish them away. You can't punch them away. You can't eat them away, and you can't therapy them away. You just have to learn to let them have their way and greet them as old friends.
God bless you.
You can't change the past. You can only change the future. The
Yeah.
scars are your past.
Yeah.
You can learn and grow from them, but you change, modify, and change your visual outlook based off of what's happened in your past. We've all got scars, maybe not like this gentleman has gotten through it, and thank you very much for your service. But it's you can learn from them, grow from them, and help educate and teach. Hence the education part of my life.
Sure.
I like to teach what I know, and I know more about cigars than I do anything else, but I also know cars. I know how to do a lot of things. I'll help teach those. Teach what you've learned from negative and turn it into a positive.
Mike Dieter out there says, our scars teach us lessons in life. We can choose to use them to grow and overcome, and use those experiences to help others.
Amen.
Yep.
I think. Go ahead. No.
I think
please.
another thing that you can look at when it comes to those scars. I mean, yes, you're right. You know, they tell a story, something to learn from. But it's also one of those. It's like, you know what? This is what I went through. You know, whether it's something as severe as what Sean went through. It's like, I went through all this. This couldn't stop me.
That's that day.
This couldn't hold me back. This couldn't stop me from going. So use that as motivation to drive you. Like, all right, what if this couldn't stop me? There's a lot of other things that aren't going to stop me from doing what I want to do.
Yeah, I think with the past, like scars, just by sheer definition, scars, physical or mentally, the whole definition of scars is that they're not going to go away, right? This is something that you healed from. Physically, especially if you're still around, and also mentally for Sean out there. I'm not going to give you advice. I know you're listening. I appreciate you listening and being a part of the show. You can either let the scars haunt you and remind you constantly of that, or you can take it from a different aspect, is that it's never going to be easy. They're always going to be a reminder of something that possibly went wrong, something you lost, a bad time. But I do think that it's what you do going forward. You can't change the past. You can only embrace now, and going forward is you make a decision, just like anything else we talked about in part 2 tonight, is that you make a decision. You look down, for him, what you're talking about, Nate, is that it may not be, I don't know with Sean, I know him fairly well, but I don't know if he has any physical scars from these ghosts that he deals with. But I think that everyone has everything from, and it's all perspective, right? Trivial, but it can be very impactful. If you lose a job, you lose a loved one, you go through a divorce, you go through a loss in your family, whatever it might be, you go through what he went through. These are those things. You go through a physical scar that, that still impacts you, that scares you from something that that impacted your life. A dramatic one would be if you did, like you lose a limb, you lose something, right? You go blind, you go any of these very, very impactful types things. I'm not gonna necessarily put them all in the same boat, but in a sense I will, that no matter how little or how big a scar can be, if you let that rule your life in a negative way, to what I think it was Mike that put that out there of the topic that he put out there, is that, do you use it as drive, or do you use it as a crutch, or as something that's bringing you down in quicksand? I think that some of these scars, it's when I joke about that thing from a silly movie, is that, chicks dig scars. It's like, it's a story. How do you use that story to live your life? How do you use that story to impact? If someone sees a scar on your arm, you're wearing a t-shirt, like people don't want to ask, but it's like, if someone's looking at a scar on your arm, and it's like, well, let me tell you about that. Something that happened, like even Sean, that severe and stuff like that. It's like, why do you say that? Why do you react a certain way? Let me tell you, this is what happened. But it's not
scars that start off with let me tell you about that. It started off with hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things that I think that if you can take that experience, as hard as it might be, whatever you went through or whatever anyone else went through in your life, it's if you can take that and try to educate, try to teach, that's the best case scenario. You're not going to change the past. And it'll probably always haunt you at some point, or always have an impact. You might have a nightmare. If you had your own accident and you have like a physical impairment because of that, it's not easy by any means. And I don't have any, knock on wood, I hope I don't have that, but I've got my own personal issues that I went through, that I went through ups and downs in my life. Not the same scars necessarily as that he went through, but it's stuff that I've gone through. And I can either keep reliving that and impact the interactions with people around me constantly in my day-to-day life, or I can try to, and it's always a struggle, but you can use that to frame the way you live your life that you still have and what you have left of your life. And I think that's something that Sean's doing the best he can. I think all of us do, but I never let yourself get pulled down that quicksand of whatever that scar might be. Don't look down at your scar and be ashamed of it, or man, if I could go back. It's like, we can't. So live through that moment of, if you could, and then try to move past it the best you can. It's easier said than done, but it's what has to happen.
Yeah.
Or you're caught in that quicksand.
Earlier, I'd mentioned the get out of the I and go to the we's.
Mm-hmm.
This is a scenario. I'm going to reverse what I said, and you need to look at the I, the true self, and go back to the Chinese mentality, the yin and the yang. You've had this negative, whether it be physical, mental, and physical can obviously become mental. And you got to say, with that negative, there is a positive out there. You want to have to go look for that to give that balance in your life. So go and look for the positive to go against that negative. If you lose a limb, what can I still do with the others? If you lose your eyesight, well, you still got 4 more. What better can I do? Right? I almost lost my eyesight as a diabetic of 48 years. I started thinking, I'm like, well, what the hell can I start doing? You know, you start thinking about jobs you can do. Well, I might be able to do this. Fuck it, let me try it. You know, and
Sure.
I go in with the if something negative is going to happen, I'm going to find the positive, because there's a opposite and equal volume of that negative in a volume scenario. I just got to go find it. And I hope that, you know, somebody that's listening that may say, God, I understand that. I hope there is, because there's a lot of positivity out there. Sometimes we are not willing to go look for it. And I think we need to, as a society, going back to some of the other questions we had earlier.
Absolutely. Charlie, closing remarks.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just how you deal with it. I mean, my wife and I, we have 2 daughters, 2 beautiful daughters, and one's in college, one's 12. And along the way, she had 5 miscarriages. And so you start to question your faith, you question everything. But, you know, luckily we ended up being blessed with 2 beautiful daughters, and, you know, you get through it, and you have friends, and basically your community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hopefully what anyone struggling like that can find. And maybe there's things that everyone works together with, you know, cigars. You know, I have friends that
Common bond, man.
Common bond. I have friends in the neighborhood that we met, and, you know, someone might work in the beer industry. Someone's an accountant, someone's, you know, whatever. But all of a sudden, hey, I want to try cigars. So we all get together, and, you know, there's a lot of community going on there, hanging out, watching football, whatever it may be. And we all talk about things. We all have negatives, positives in our life. So, I mean, that's God bless you, man.
And if anyone wants to talk college sports, there's your man right there.
Nate, closing remarks.
Well, I mean, one closing thing I'll say about the last topic, Jonathan Herring actually put it out there, but I think it's something that's really important. You know, whether your scars are physical or emotional, psychological, whatever they are, don't let those closest to you bear the brunt of them. Don't take it out on them, because they're not the ones that put them there. If they are the ones that put them there, distance yourselves from them. But don't let things like that stop you from being part of a community and talking with others, and, you know, being able to communicate with people and forging, you know, new friendships and new relationships going forward. You know, we all go through some shit, but it doesn't mean you have to go through it by yourself.
And just as a summary, everyone goes through their shit. And just because your shit might be greater or less than theirs, go through it. If you can go through it together, over a cigar, over whiskey, over whatever, the neighborhood, mowing grass, like
Building a car,
Whatever it might be, man. It's just live your life the best you can and realize that everyone's got their own problems. And yes, sometimes they're greater than others, but just give it time. It's not a competition. Because if it's a competition, it's like, yeah, I've lost someone too. You're losing someone that's important to you. I've done that. It's about trying to be there for other people. The best you can be there for other people. I think that sometimes you don't realize that the more vulnerable you are and open you are and being there for other people and trying to relate, but also listen, that it'll come back to you that when they do that, it's like you were there for me during that time. And I didn't realize I tried to be there for you, but I didn't realize what you're going through.
Yeah.
It's not a competition.
Nope.
It shouldn't be. Unfortunately, sometimes it is. Guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Travis, Charlie, welcome to your first podcast.
Hey, glad to be
Part
here.
2 is different, isn't it?
That was fun.
It's
a lot
fun.
of fun. A lot of fun.
Cheers, guys. Safe travels to you. We got more Altadis cigars coming up on podcasts coming up. Cheers. And
W
we'll see you
out
guys
there.
next week. Thank you very much.